What's going on, my Jets family? For some reason, we were having a little trouble going live. I don't know why. Wouldn't let it, didn't want to work for some reason, but we're here now. So I want to say thank you again, like always, guys, for tuning in to the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. I appreciate all you guys being here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. GreenBean will be with us momentarily. Unfortunately, he's just running a minute or so late. He'll be here soon. I see Jeremy's all excited. Jeremy's ready for his guy. GreenBean, he'll be here. No worries. He's on his way. Excuse me. So he should be about like another minute or so, and then he should be jumping in. So again, guys, I want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank you guys for being part of this, for coming and being in my show. Love my Jets family, but it's tough right now. I mean, we're going to get into it when GreenBean gets here. We have important topics we're going to talk about today, but it's tough right now, man. It's really, really tough. I mean, you guys know that, like, I'm optimistic. I try to, always, look at the glass half full. I'm an optimistic guy. I try to, believe in, the potential. But right now, I mean, I still believe, obviously, Zach isn't the problem. We're gonna talk about that more when Greenbean gets here. Zach isn't the issue at all. Unfortunately, it kind of seems like everything else is a little bit of an issue right now. We're going to talk about it. We have the offensive line is an absolute disaster. Our wide receivers are dropping balls left and right. Even our new wide receiver one, like Corey Davis, was supposed to be the guy. Like, he wasn't showing inclinations like this in preseason, in camp, in preseason. He looked like a wide receiver one. Like, we weren't seeing what we're seeing now. What is going on? The running game, clearly with no offensive line, is going to always have trouble getting anything going, which is going to then take all the pressure and put it on your rookie quarterback, put all the pressure on his shoulders to try to make something happen. And we've seen that. We saw that week 2. Remember when we talked about it? Week 2, Zach was literally trying to make something happen when there was nothing there. And that's hard enough to do when you have experience and have the knowledge of the NFL. He doesn't yet. So, yeah, we saw some really bad interceptions week 2 because of that. But, man, I was expecting, even if you expected us to lose, you were at least expecting a competitive game. You weren't expecting a shutout. You were not expecting the Jets to be freaking shut out in Denver. So, like I said, guys, GreenBean is going to be coming in a minute. Exciting news, my guys. He's here. So I want to thank GreenBean for joining us on the episode.
What's up, buddy?
I'm good, man. I mean, if you take the Jets out of the equation, I'm doing pretty good.
Dude, Harrison, what is this? This is not what we signed up for at all, buddy.
It is not. Dude, it is not even close to what we signed up for. Like I was just telling, the people out there, like, I try to be optimistic. Like, I try to, be a glass half full kind of guy. I mean, everyone was excited when Salah came in. This was supposed to be a culture change, but
yeah,
I mean, to me, it honestly looks like more of the same.
Dude, I mean, the truth is that it looks just like the last year's first quarter of the season. I mean, the only saving grace is that the defense is playing their hearts out. Like, you got to give it to them. And look, they're young. It's going to be sloppy. We're going to see all that stuff, but they're playing. The offense it looks just like Adam Gase. The play calling is unimaginative. They don't have any answers. There's no responses for what the defense is doing. We're not seeing any game plan. It just looks like, hey, go out and run this one. Like we made 40 plays, go out and, all right, we're on play 36, run it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it looks like to me. So yeah. It's crazy. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Shout out to all you guys here. We mentioned Jeremy before, Pure Adrenaline Fantasy Sports. Tom's here. Kevin's here. Vern's here. Appreciate all you guys. Appreciate all you tuning in. But you kind of nailed it on the head a second ago, man, when you were saying that it doesn't really look like anything's changed. Like, it looked like last year, like when we had Adam Gase. And that's what's crazy. And that kind of, I felt it last week. Like, watching week 2, I was like, okay, the defense looks really good. But where's this, scheming to the strengths that we've been talking about, that we've been
Mm,
hearing? That's the big thing we've been hearing. This Mike Shanahan based offense that was, scheming to players' strengths, scheming players open. And I know personally, when I watch like Green Bay with with Matt, the older brother, or
right.
when I watch Kyle with the Niners, I just feel like there's more, either more trickery or more using a player to their ability or scheming somebody open. It just doesn't look the same.
No, it doesn't, man. I mean, you know what? You know what's sad to say is that when you go to a certain well, numerous times, at some point it's going to dry up, right? Like you look at, like you said, Matt LaFleur, you look at Kyle Shanahan and all the people that were in that tree, and then we grab the kid. And it's like I didn't feel like this until this week. Like I thought, okay, LaFleur or whatever, but I just started thinking, did we get the bad one? Now, I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I'm having those thoughts. Like, not everybody coming out of a certain system is going to be gold. That's just, I mean, we've seen it. There are lots of good guys, but there are so many that come out of this system that are good, that like, and then we got one whose big brother is like best friends with our head coach. And there's a lot of weird dynamics there that could lead you to thinking, oh no, and this was the first week I really started thinking that. I think in truth, there's a few major reasons, and I hope that we'll be able to get to them, but just one is like, the truth is that he's never done this before. He's always had Kyle Shanahan to kind of filter his genius, whatever great stuff he was coming up with. Kyle Shanahan was the one who knew situationally which one we could use, which one we couldn't. He was getting that, and he was getting LaFleur's and McDaniels, kind of both, the running game coordinator, passing game coordinator, and like making it and going, okay, here's what we're going to do. Mike LaFleur's never been the end all. So I think that's what we're seeing. He's in over his head. Now, that doesn't mean he can't do it. It just means that he can't do it yet. The sad part about it is our quarterback is getting his ass kicked in the meantime, and the offense looks like complete ass.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. And that literally, brings us to the first question of today, the first topic that we're going to talk about. So first, before we do, if you guys haven't, if I could ask, if you could please subscribe to the channel. You can do so by clicking on the logo in the bottom right corner. That will get you subscribed. Much appreciated. But the topic of conversation that we're going to start with is kind of like what GreenBean was saying, kind of like what I was saying, where I was kind of getting inklings of it, week 2, watching again, like we were saying, watching what I've seen in Green Bay, watching what I've seen with the Niners, expecting a certain thing and not really seeing that. It makes you wonder. Yeah, like you were just saying, it's still early. This guy has never been an OC before. It's his first time being an OC, just like Saleh being his first time as a head coach. So yeah, there's going to be a learning curve, like any rookie, like Zach has.
Right.
But I just have that voice in the back of my head, like we were
Yep.
just talking about, exactly making me wonder, is he the problem? And I think you kind of nailed it a second ago with basically almost like that nepotism in a way. And that's kind of what I come back to. Like, obviously we saw, Mike's system taken by his son Kyle and turned into something great. And then Matt learned it as well and also turned it into something great. So Mike comes in with this resume of being close with Robert Saleh, knowing him well. Obviously, Matt's his brother. He's taken that system and turned it into something successful. Yeah, it makes you wonder, if that's why he got this job, and, also makes you wonder, sometimes it is 2 out of 3, I mean, not everyone always gets it. Like, is it possible that, Kyle's got it, Matt gets it, but maybe Mike just doesn't?
That's right. Well, it's a look, and like I definitely want to be careful, right? Like I don't want to just start jumping on. Like you're similar to me in this respect, where we try as best we can to look at it constructively, right? Sometimes they make it hard, man. They
do. The Jets make it really hard.
This team doesn't make it easy. Like I did a live stream yesterday for the game, 3 hours and change. I felt like I was under attack. I had like 100 people in there saying we suck, and I'm like, no, not for free. As soon as I hung up that, when I turned off that live stream, I was exhausted. I was like, oh my God, that kicked my ass. It's hard to defend this stuff, or at least not even defend, but try to look at it constructively. But the thing is, man, is that the way that they built this team, the way that they built it, wasn't for LaFleur to be out front solo as a solo act. We hired 2 young guys, 2 veteran coaches for the offense. And then we had Miles Austin, who could probably be considered a young, newer guy. I think he's 4 years in the league as a wide receivers coach. So we have Rob Calabrese and Mike LaFleur as the young bucks, and then we had John Benton, the offensive line coach and running game coordinator, in addition to Greg Knapp, the wise sage of the bunch. He was a major component to what we were trying to do. We lost him. So in my opinion, the way that it was created was very intelligent. It was very well thought out. It was constructed to give each side its counter. Like, so you got an old antiquated thinker maybe, but no, you have the young, exciting offensive minds in the room. Oh, but they're inexperienced. Oh, but you have the experienced guys. Like, you had that back and forth. And I think the way they were doing it was very intelligent, very well thought out. And the personnel there were very talented. Greg Knapp is widely respected by some of the greatest in the game, right? From Denver to Indianapolis. I mean, all over the guy's been everywhere. So when he passed away, now, again, I want to make sure that nobody yells at me for saying that this is, who cares about football with Greg Knapp. I'm not saying that the Jets are more important than his family or anything like that with Greg Knapp's situation. I'm 100% in agreement. But we're talking about the Jets, and this is a component of the Jets, and only how as it applies to the Jets. And I think LaFleur is out front as a solo act prematurely, and that was never the plan. And even though we hired Matt Cavanaugh to be, to kind of fill the Greg Knapp role, and I think it's a good find. I'm surprised we were able to find such an experienced, talented guy out there when we did. At the same time, he was out there when we looked. So he hasn't been a coach in, I think, 2 years. So there's a little bit there too. It's probably going to take him a while to get his engines going and kind of mesh with LaFleur. So I think that, sadly, that's what we're seeing. We're just seeing a guy who shouldn't have been out there. With everything else we just said, the nepotism, the 2 out of 3, that's all part of it. But underneath everything, like, people are screaming about Joe Douglas sucks, Robert Saleh sucks. It's like, it's none of those things. We had a major loss. He was the wise sage of the offense, Greg Knapp, and we lost him a month and a half before the season or whatever it was. So this is the derivative, in my opinion. It doesn't mean LaFleur can't get it. I just wonder if Zach's going to be able to make it through this terrible process of watching LaFleur get his legs underneath him.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And I do, understand that perspective, because Greg Knapp was supposed to be, that veteran presence, that senior coach, the one that was really, supposed to be more of like an overseer to, work with the quarterback coach, work with Mike LaFleur. But similar to like what Snoopy's saying a little bit. It's like, we have It's Snoopy here, appreciate all you guys. Keep bringing your comments. It says, with respect to the coach that passed away, if he was really that important, it proves even more how the OC isn't very qualified. I kind of see where Snoopy's coming at a little bit. And the way I look at it is, yeah, obviously, losing Knapp was a big deal. Like you said, I mean, it's a massive blow, but at the same time, we got to keep going forward. Like, we still got to put a quality product on the field. This is still, our beginning. This is still, it's not the end. It's still hopefully supposed to be the beginning of something. And if, they really can't make it work, then that just kind of, in a way, maybe shows that these young guys either, again, it might be taking them a little while. There might be, like we were talking about, that learning curve, where they're not either, they're trying different things and it's not working and they're adapting them. But again, it comes back, I ask you, it comes back to that. Well, I saw adjustments week 1 I feel like I really haven't seen them since.
Well, it's funny with week one because week one I was screaming the entire first half, largely in my brain because I was in front of people. But I was kind of wondering where the hell the adjustments are. Now at halftime, in my opinion, is when we saw some nice adjustments. But I still didn't see. I never saw LaFleur respond to their aggressive pass rush in Carolina with.
Yeah.
With plays that can stop the pass rush, a la screens and the like. Excuse me. So I look and I understand what Snoopy's saying, but here's the thing. Like it's very easy to look at any situation and say, that's the problem. He sucks. And I'm not even saying that LaFleur doesn't suck. I'm definitely not saying he does. But here's the thing. Without Greg Knapp, maybe they wouldn't have taken a swing on such a young, inexperienced offensive coordinator without that counterbalance. We don't know. Maybe they said, he's not really ready. With Greg Knapp around, sure. You know what I mean? Because LaFleur's play design, I mean, Kyle Shanahan loves LaFleur. He brought him to 3 separate locations with him. He loves them to death. And it's not because of his brother. You know what I mean? Like maybe a little bit, but Kyle Shanahan's kind of the father of that now with the previous patriarch, Mike Shanahan, being off in the sunset. You know, he's kind of the top dog, if you will, for lack of a better word, in the tree at the moment. So he's been dragging Mike LaFleur around with him for at 3 different teams, and he's been his right hand for that whole time. So clearly he thinks very highly of him, and other people do as well. So he is inexperienced, and maybe he is in over his head as far as the game management and being the final word. I don't know. I mean, I'm not even defending the guy. I'm just looking at it objectively.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And I think that's, some Jet fans, obviously, you see it, they're just right on the negative. But some like us, we're trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. Because, like we said, we have a rookie quarterback. We have a rookie head coach. We have a rookie OC. We expected bumps in the road. We expected, there to be trials, tribulations, adversity to rise over, there to be some bad. But I don't think we were expecting what we've been seeing. I don't think, fans were expecting us to be shut out in Denver.
No, nor should we be. Like when people say, like, look, the crowd that's jumping on Joe Douglas right now, the 2020 draft class is all injured and everything. Hey man, it's a fair point. You can't defend that. It's there.
Yeah, but that's not on the GM. You can't fault the GM for injury.
Does that mean right? But does that mean the draft class is done? No, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that they're injured. It happens all the time. But the other thing is like looking at this whole entire scenario and saying we don't have like somebody told me just this morning we have the worst roster in the NFL. And I was like, I got to say, 2 months ago, that was not the narrative. We had a top 15, top 10 receiver room. We had an offensive line with one hole on it. We had, all this talent. Now, it's all young talent, but it's talent. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Michael Carter, Mekhi Becton, Elijah Vera-Tucker. These are highly regarded football players. Zach Wilson, Marcus May, C.J. Mosley, Quinnen Williams. We have a lot of talent on the roster. Now, I'm not saying it's enough talent to win the Super Bowl or to take the AFC East, but I am saying without any reservation, we have more talent than to get shut out in a game where we have 6 dropped passes and 8 penalties and everybody's just kind of rolling around and laying around and fucking off, pardon my French. Like we have more talent than 6 points a game for the first 3 games.
No, without a doubt. It's crazy. And I think I tweeted it out yesterday during the game. I think we have 3 first half points over the course of like the last 3 games. Like you said, 6 in total. It's right. It's not what we expected. It's really not what we expected. Like we said, we expected it, to possibly be coming along slow, to, there to be some bumps. But exactly, we expected competitive. And that was the whole point when Robert Saleh came in. When Saleh came in, that was the excitement among Jet fans that we're finally going to be competitive again. We have a coach like when Rex Ryan was here that the players want to play for, they're energized about, that there's a feeling on that field. And I'm not feeling it yet.
Yeah. Well, I am feeling it at times with the defense. Like I'm seeing CJ Mosley running around. I'm seeing Quincy Williams running around. I'm seeing the defensive line consistently get pressure. I'm seeing these young ass cornerbacks holding their own. Like, look, Brandon Eccles got taken to school yesterday by Sutton. Dude, it's going to happen. I mean, we're talking about Sutton versus a sixth round pick in his third game in his rookie year. It's going to happen. But I got to tell you, for much of that game, he was right on him, man. And he was playing a
and
good
Hall
game.
played well too.
Just like Bryce Hall.
Hall was on
and,
him, yeah,
so,
but he got beat once or twice.
Right. And it's going to happen. So, but these guys are playing. They're playing with a high level of emotion. But Harrison, in the Patriot game, our defense was not on the field for 4 plays in the first quarter. 4 plays, dude, because Zach came out and his first 2 passes were interceptions. Like, it's not going to be able to continue that way. Now, here's the thing. The defense is coming out and playing hard. CJ Mosley's laying the wood, as are other guys on the team. Marcus May's fired up. Everybody's fired up. Dude, as soon as they get fired up, make a stop, and the offense throws a pick or goes up and 3, down and 3, they get a big fumble, and the offense goes up and 3, down and 3. Dude, the energy level sinks, and there's no reason to risk your body anymore. There's no reason to do that, and that's what we're going to start seeing. Robert Saleh said in his presser after the game, I don't know. I've never been a part of a team that just folded and called it a day. And my first thought was, oh my God, this guy's green. He doesn't know what he's up against here. He doesn't understand. And this is the thing, man. Like, what do you mean you've never seen a team that Dude, every year we have a team that folds. And we have completely new players. It doesn't matter. The team folds almost every year. So, like, this is the thing. I think that our young first-time coaching staff has never faced a monster like the New York Jets. Look at our injuries. Look at our fan base. Look at our media. Dude, did you hear the questions they were throwing at him yesterday? The blood is just entering the water. They're going to be all over him, and he was getting frustrated yesterday.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. That's the New York media. I mean, he said he was ready for it. Zach said he was ready for it. This is what it's going to be. And that's why, with the offensive linemen, we could talk about that, getting a little chippy during their interviews. You got to know better than that. This is New York media. They're trying to push your buttons. If you allow them to push your buttons, they won.
Yeah, dude. And it's just like, look, I think the problem right now, because our defense is competitive. They're competitive. For much of these games, they're bending but not breaking. They're holding. But again, it just wears them down. If the offense could come to play, if the offense could do something, like we had that one drive yesterday, what was it predicated on? Short little slants and all that stuff. Get Zach in a rhythm. It's intelligent. It's what the Patriots are doing with Mac Jones. It's what the Carolina Panthers are doing with Sam Darnold. Everybody's like, oh, we should have never traded Sam. Dude, if Sam was here, it would look like the Sam we've always known. Make no mistake. It's not that. It's if Sam was being asked to push the ball downfield and had 6 drop passes a game, it would be the same story. And we'd be wondering why we kept him and didn't take the kid in the set. It's like, you can't do that shit. And it's but what they're doing is intelligent. They're protecting their quarterbacks with young, high percentage pass plays. And that's what we did on that drive. And what happens? Drop passes. Michael Carter, Corey Davis. The Corey Davis drop pass thing, dude, it's a downright problem, Harrison.
It's beyond a problem. It's an issue, because as we saw last year, we saw firsthand what it was like to not have a real wide receiver one in Brashad Perriman. Brashad Perriman was a joke. The guy was dropping literally half of his passes. That was what we thought we were fixing. And like I was mentioning before you got in with the guys in the chat, during the preseason, during the offseason, Corey Davis wasn't really giving any inklings of like being a big drop guy. Like he was looking good in the preseason. He was looking solid. Like every Jet fan was like, we got our wide receiver one. I don't know what is going on, but he had some bad key drops week 1, had 1 or 2 week 2. Yesterday was a travesty. Yesterday was an absolute travesty. And if he keeps looking like that, he is not even close to a wide receiver one.
No. And here's the question. Here's the test from my perspective. We have a 6'3", 23-year-old, 4.38 speed, high pointing, hands catching, super blocking wide receiver that they will not dress. You have another guy that's sitting there dropping passes and interceptions are his friggin' fault. What are you going to do about this, Saleh? Are you going to keep the kid on the bench while this guy makes $16 million to drop passes? What is it?
Yep.
Where's the accountability? And that's the thing. Saleh's going to have to learn, man. He's going to have to learn. Like if LaFleur comes out with another dud of a game plan, he's got to say, hey, Kavanaugh, he's been an offensive coordinator for 2 separate teams, has had much success in this league. Play calling is yours for the rest of the day. Hey, you, Corey Davis, you just dropped another one after all we worked on this week. Sit down. Sit down. What about Keelan Cole? He's running around. He was a figment of our imaginations until the Broncos went into prevent. This Denzel Mims thing, I was trying to give them benefit of the doubt, Harrison, but with everything else looking like they're in over their head, I now think that they're just making a huge mistake and they don't know how to. Mike LaFleur literally does not know how to use a player that is outside of his expectations for what players do in this system. He does not know how to use Denzel Mims, which is ridiculous to me. So this is where the work is.
Yeah, and you make an excellent point because, right when the Mims situation started happening, I was upset. Other Jet fans were upset. But again, like you said, we took a step back and said, okay, well, we were excited that Robert Saleh is the coach. We want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, well, he's excited with Corey Davis, Keelan Cole, Elijah Moore, Braxton Berrios. Heck, he even likes Jeff Smith better. Okay, let's see what they can do. But like you just said, when the wide receivers are laying an egg and just dropping all the balls, dropping key passes, looking awful, what do you expect people to say? Well, that's exactly the point. If they were lighting it up, and that was kind of my take, when that started happening, I just want my Jets to win. I just want us to succeed. If Keelan Cole can be awesome, that's great. I was saying, if Keelan Cole has an 1,000-yard season, no one's really going to be saying, oh, well, what about Denzel Mims? They're going to be like, Davis, exactly. And that's what Jet fans, that's what we realize. If all those guys that are above Mims light it up, we wouldn't care. But the point is they're not, and it's looking bad. And that's exactly what's bringing in, that questioning. But if I can, just coming back to Mike LaFleur for a second, because this is the fear that's just running in the back of my head. And I think of it like this, and maybe you would agree. So after week 2, the first Jets home game against the Patriots, yes, we knew, there was going to be bumps in the road, but it was the first home game with fans in the stadium. I don't agree with the booing. I think the booing was bad and wrong. But again, fans, emotions are running high. They were expecting good stuff. The immediate rhetoric you heard was that, the fans are going to ruin Zach Wilson. They're going to get in his head. And my first take immediately was, that's BS. That's not going to happen. Zach Wilson is a dialed-in kid. He understands, the film. He understands what's expected of him. That's not a problem. However, if the offensive coordinator is actually bad and he is a problem, well, then that is a huge problem for your rookie quarterback. If you have a rookie quarterback that has an offensive coordinator that isn't good, well, we saw firsthand that is a real problem. And unfortunately, that is a way to ruin a quarterback.
Yeah. Well, and look, and that's a really great distinction, man. Like, let's be real here for a second. Us booing for a collected time frame of 8 seconds is not going to ruin anything. Okay.
But of course, so that was the media spin.
Right. That was what it was. And let me just put this out there, because I don't, look, I never shy away from whatever I think, you know what I mean? And you can disagree, agree, doesn't matter as long as we remain civil, right? I fucking booed. And now I didn't boo Zach Wilson's first pick. I didn't boo the entire first quarter. I didn't boo the second quarter. I didn't boo the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, when he was still throwing picks and we're kicking field goals, guess what I did? I booed. It's the only tool I have to express to this team that I just drove 9.5 hours to be here. I spent probably $600 and spent 3 full days committed to this thing, and this is what I watch. Boo! And that's the only tool I have. If they gave me a big sign where I could write my feelings, I would have done that. Something. So
I get you. And I think, like you're saying, you're right. Most Jet fans, they were booing the Jets in general, the system they were putting in play, the position they were putting Zach Wilson in, not really Zach Wilson himself.
It was the whole, man. Believe me when I tell you, it was the whole. Like was it the Corey, Corey Davis drops a pass and it goes into his hands. Is it the referees blowing a whistle before the guy gets tackled so we don't get the fumble in the Patriots red zone? Is it the other interception that they bobbled before he went down and they never reviewed? I mean, I don't know. It's the whole collection. All I know is this, Harrison. I only go to like one game a year these days because I'm obviously not in the area. I'm all over the country, but I used to go to every game. I have sat in the Meadowlands and watched the fake spike. I mean, it goes on and on and on. These
no, believe me, I know what you're talking about, man.
You know what I mean? Losing 6-3 to the Colts in the 40 degrees, like the whole thing. When we walked in that stadium, the Jets fans' energy was so high. There was so much positivity. The place was packed and everyone was positive and loud. When Zach Wilson was introduced to these fans for the first time, it was the loudest thing of the entire day. We did 6 Jets chants leading up to the kickoff. It was pumped. And then the game started and we had nothing to cheer for 2.5 hours. So of course people are going to boo. And look, and that's not to say, I have a problem with people thinking it's a problem. What I'm saying is, like you said, the idea that is what's going to ruin anything, dude, no way. This guy drawing up these bland ass plays that defenses have no problem taking everybody out of the play. That's what's going to ruin Zach Wilson.
No, exactly. And that, of course, that's the media spin immediately. But yeah, you watch this kid. He's not listening to the outside noise. He's dialed in. He's dedicated. He knows what's needed of him. He's a film junkie. He's not listening to that outside noise. But like we were saying, at the same problem, having an OC, if again, we're saying if, because it is an if, but if he is the problem, if he's not calling good plays and putting Zach in bad situations and teaching him bad habits, that is a massive, massive problem.
It's such a big problem, man. There was one play yesterday, and I did watch the game again in the compressed version, and I couldn't find it. I feel like it was in the third quarter, and I screamed about it in the live stream. There was one play, I believe it was a third down play, where all 3 of our potential receiving targets ended up in front, like right in front of Zach Wilson. They were 2 yards apart, all 3 of them on the same yard line. They were just bunched up with the defense surrounding them. I never saw a play drawn up like that in my entire life watching football. And it was like, I screamed, like, what is the kid supposed to do? And then we look at the offensive line. They gave him time for 4 seconds. He has nowhere to throw the ball. It's like, what is it? Like, at some point, the offensive coordinator and the staff have to figure out some way to get the ball out of this kid's hands and into somebody's hands in space without the defense being able to stop it. If you can't do that, then this is not the job for you, man.
No, I completely agree.
Right?
Completely agree. So yeah, so just throwing up some of your guys' comments. Appreciate all you guys here. Appreciate everything you guys are bringing. I got Tom. What's up? What's up, bro? Appreciate you here. Vern says he hasn't checked you out yet, but Vern said he's going to, so that's some good stuff.
I feel like I know Vern. Oh, and I know Vern.
Vern said he hasn't checked it out yet, but Jeremy gave you a good endorsement. So did Tom. He's saying they should check you out. You definitely should, guys. If you're not watching GreenBean, you definitely should be.
Nice.
But yeah, man, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of your guys' comments here. And again, I just come back to, that idea whether, we could be wrong. I mean, like, we could just be, looking at it, again, he is a rookie OC in this job for the first time. But again, I just come back to it, is it possible that, obviously Matt gets it. Obviously Kyle gets it. I don't know. I wonder, what if Mike doesn't, and what is that going to potentially do to the development of our quarterback going forward?
Right. And Harrison, this is the test for our leader, Robert Saleh. Hey man, he can fire people up, he can get them all amped up to run through a wall. Oh yeah, can you hold players and coaches accountable? Can you hold your little brother? You know what I mean? It's like by default, he grew up with him as a kind of a quasi little brother. So can you bench him, for lack of a better term? Can you remove responsibilities? Can you do this? Salah said, "Oh, I love adversity. That's when you find out what people are made of." Well, guess what? You don't talk like that in Jets land, man. You don't do that. You don't even whiff of terms like that working for the New York Jets, because the New York Jets, what they did was they put the adversity on you, Robert Saleh. Now you have to make some decisions. Again, you got people sitting on the bench while the people playing are doing nothing. You have an offensive coordinator who happens to be your best friend's little brother, who can't, so far, has been unable to figure out a way to get the ball in his playmaker's hands in space. I mean, once or twice. And look, we handed Elijah Moore the ball. He did one jet sweep on Sunday. He's got a concussion. So it's like, I mean, I don't know.
And I feel like I come at it like this way, like we've talked about. Like, what was the biggest issue in the past? Well, they weren't scheming to players' strengths. They weren't using players the best way they could. And it just that's supposed to be what changed. Like, that's what we hear. Like, I remember when they interviewed Mike LaFleur, that was the first thing he said, and I loved it. He's like, that's how this offense is designed. It's designed completely around your player's strengths. He said you basically start, with nothing, and you design it based on who you have and what they do well and how they function. But it just doesn't feel that way. Like, I mean, like, you watch teams like Green Bay and they use Aaron Rodgers to his strengths, the receivers, same thing even in the Niners. Some trick plays every once in a while. I'm just not seeing it yet. And same thing, like, you look at what were issues with the Jets in the past. Well, their wide receivers failed to get open and failed to create separation. Well, they're still doing that. Like, that's still a problem. Like, I'm watching replays of the game, and I'm watching, I don't have it exactly in front, but I remember there was one play where the receivers, Zach Wilson has no one to throw to. They're all standing within 2 yards of each other. Like, what are you doing? What is happening right now? If Zach Wilson is under duress and you're standing still, you deserve a shot in the back of the head.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But you have to wonder what the assignment is. Like, what is the assignment? Why are they there? Like you said, situational football. If Zach's running around, you got to move. You got to take off and be an outlet for him. But at the same time, the source of that is, why are they right there? Why are they, by the play design, told to be right next to each other? Like, one of the things with play design, and look, I'm never going to pretend to be an offensive guru. It was never what I did, even when I coached football. I'm more defense and positional, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I do know a thing or two. The whole idea with offense is to create a hot read, right? So you want to be able the play develops to create space for the person that you hope to get the ball to. If you can't get him the ball, then you have the second, third, fourth read or whatever is there. But the play is designed to free up someone. There's a design to get the defense to think one thing, so you can find a seam in the zone or whatever it might be. So you can get the ball down the field a little bit, whether it's 5 yards or 25 yards, doesn't matter. What we've been able to do up to this point is fail at doing that. And like you said, I've noticed it consistently. Our receivers the cornerbacks are lockstep, because largely what they're running are what look like fly routes. I mean, and I know that can't be the case 100% of the time, but every time I choose to look at it and go, let me see what the receivers are doing, they're all running downfield. Like, I don't understand it. Like, where's the design? Where's the intelligence? Where's the pre-snap motion?
That's kind of like what I was going at. That's like I said, like, I see this in Green Bay. I saw it it was what excited me. It excited me, this ability to, scheme accordingly and open players up and, like you said, run different routes. But it just doesn't feel that way yet. It just really, really doesn't. And it's concerning to me. I mean, like we said, I mean, it could just be, LaFleur, getting his feet wet, acclimating, not being an OC before. But like you said, with Robert Saleh being accountable, I mean, if that really is the case, well, who knows, man? Maybe it might. Who knows? Maybe by the end of the season, Robert Sala's got to kick his little brother to the curb.
Maybe, or maybe the kid gets it. Maybe the weight of the position, the stress of it forges him into this sharp play caller and he learns who knows? So I agree. And that's the thing. What I see, and I'm going to tell everybody this, what I see happening is us staying the course. Can you still hear me, Harrison? Harrison, are you
my
still
bad.
there?
I still hear. Yeah, my dog was. I still hear. My bad, bro.
Okay, got it.
My dog was just giving me a little bit of a hard time. I didn't want to just shoo her away.
I got nervous. Usually that's my end. I'm like, oh shit, I dropped out. So I get nervous. But so like when you look at plays like in the Bronco game on 3rd and short and 4th and short, LaFleur chose to have an empty backfield, which to me is just. It's almost sacrilegious to me when you show them, you put your quarterback in shotgun and you show them this is a passing play on a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1. Even if you're passing it, you let them worry about the run. So like this is it. It just looks to me like the kid is either outsmarting himself, like he's doing something that isn't applying. And that's what the problem is when you have people who've never done anything before and they're in the spotlight. Like think about if you've ever been promoted or took on greater responsibility at work, and think about if 12 million people were watching you while you learned that new position. You're going to look like an idiot a lot of the time. It's just part of the case. That being said, it just sucks because we happen to have a young kid that's been sacked 15 times in 3 games. And that's the thing. We're already watching him. If you see him, he already looks a touch different than he did coming into week 1 in the preseason. He looked cool and relaxed. That's not what he looks like right now. So the play design is the only thing that you can ask to protect him. The line's better. It's not great. The line's better than week 1. They're improving slowly. And in my opinion, that's an offensive line. That's what's going to happen. We just watched their 2nd game together. So that's going to be an issue, but they'll get better as the season goes on. But the play calling has to take that into account and scheme around those weaknesses. And I just don't know if LaFleur's there yet. But like you said, maybe we got to fire him at the end of the year. Maybe he's a dynamo by week 9. I don't know. And that's why I think
it just seems weird to me. It's like for example, like Elijah Moore is one of the most shifty, elusive guys. I think we've seen him line up inside like maybe a couple of times. If that, he tends to usually, wind up being on the outside. Berrios is on the inside. I've seen him open plenty of times, and it's just not getting him the ball. I don't know whether that's, on Zach or on the play calling, but man, it's been rough. Like we said, we watched this. The receivers can't get open. No one can create separation. And we're going to get into it. The offensive line. The offensive line is just a train wreck right now. Like a literal train wreck. And I think that's why people are jumping on Joe Douglas the most, because that's his bread and butter. I mean, his thing was offensive line. Like he comes in as a former offensive lineman, knowing offensive line. That's what's excited me the most about him. I mean, there were a lot of things like, and I'm a big fan of Joe Douglas. And I like you said, I still don't think he's the problem, but definitely the offensive line is on him with it being as bad as it is. And, you look at like last year's draft, for example, like the 2020 draft, like Snoopy pointed out, and a lot of people were saying, they're not happy with the 2020 draft. But like you said, a lot of them are injured, and injuries are not on the GM. The GM can't control that. He drafts the guy. He hopes they play well. But unless they had, injury concerns in college, it's not something he saw was going to happen. So, like, I mean, you look at all the picks, like just going through quickly, you got Mekhi Becton, who when he's played, the kids look like a Pro Bowler, but he's had injury problems. Then you got Denzel Mims. He can't see the field, and that's not on Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas isn't the coach. He can't call Robert Saleh and say, put him in or you're fired. I mean, I guess he could, but he's not calling Saleh and saying, put him in or you're fired. He's letting Saleh run the show, and the show is Mims isn't part of it. So that's not on him. The next one is Ashton Davis. He didn't have injury concerns in college. And same thing, when he played last year, he looked good. He looked like a real good safety with a lot of potential. He did. But also injury. But then look at the other guys. You got LaMichael Pirine, who I even admitted I was wrong about. That dude is a power back. Like that guy is a beast. And same thing. He's also had injuries, but when he's played, he's looked good. He's looked the role of a power back. Then you got Bryce Hall, who hands down has been the CB1 and is filling that role. He's been able to stay healthy. Then you got Braden Mann back there. I honestly don't think it's like you were saying, it's not as bad a draft as people are making it out to be.
It's not.
There's a
It's
ton of
not.
injuries, but if you look at these players when they're not injured, they played really well.
Yeah. The only one that had injury concerns coming in was Jabari Zuniga. And while I loved the player, I really liked him. I scouted him for my, whatever I do to look at players. And I liked him a lot. I did think he was taken about a round, maybe even 2 rounds early.
Yep. You and me were on the
But
same page there.
yeah, but I still liked him. And look at Cam Clark. Cam Clark hasn't been able to see the field for 10 seconds as a Jet. He was not an injury concern in college. So the guy,
Exactly.
quite the opposite. He was an animal in college. He was known as like a road grader, attitude problem.
He was a
offensive
mauler.
lineman.
He was like a
A
small Mekhi
mauler.
Becton. Yeah.
Right. So the idea was like, man, if we can get this guy next to Mekhi Becton over there on the left side, it was like, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's look, I honestly, I know it sounds stupid. I know it does, but I would put it more on the Jets curse than I would Joe Douglas's draft pick. And I know that sounds corny, but shit, man, look at Corey Davis. All of a sudden, he's not known as a guy who drops balls. All of a sudden, he can't
This is
catch.
weird. What is happening? And like we said, it's not even like he was showing inclinations of this prior. Like in the preseason, he looked great. That week 2 preseason game with Zach, we're like, he has arrived. Like we have a wide receiver 1 finally. He wasn't having a lot of drops in the offseason. There were other, Chris Herndon was having a lot of drops, but Corey Davis wasn't.
Right.
I don't get what's going on here. It just, it honestly, I think, and that's, I think where a lot of Jet fans are coming to. I think they're just frustrated because it just doesn't make sense. Like it just legitimately doesn't make sense. The things that we thought might go bad are going bad, but the things we thought we had right are somehow going bad.
Totally. I mean, look, man, when this season started, and you're like me, we talked to, without exaggeration, thousands of Jets fans, whether it's Twitter or YouTube, Jet Nation, friends, thousands.
And we love you
90%
guys.
Right. And 90% of them felt strongly that our offense was going to be where we were safe this year and our defense was going to be the concern. Starting so many rookies, not knowing what's going on, not having cornerback 1, all those concerns. And it's quite the opposite. I still think our defense has a lot to be desired. I think there's work to be done there. But having lost their number 1 pass rusher in Carl Lawson, their, a number 1 rotational guy, Vinny Curry, the other rotational guy, Ronald Blair, a starting linebacker in Jared Davis, our starting safety in LaMarcus Joyner. They're playing some pretty damn good football, and it's inspired, and you got to give it to them. And I think if the offense could score 14, 21 points in it, or at least just have a few friggin' drives that are more than a minute and a half, 3 minutes long, that defense will keep you in games. They're playing. Ulbricht's doing a great job, in my opinion. And so is Tony Oden is doing a fantastic job with these young defensive backs, man.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Fantastic. And that's the whole thing. Look, Quinnen Williams is coming to life. He got a sack and a half. He's been doing really well in the run game. John Franklin Myers, Fadu Kasi, like these guys are playing. You know what I mean? Everybody's playing. The problem is they're on the field way too long and way too soon after they get off the field. It's almost like 1 minute goes by and they're putting their helmets back on, and that's no way to do it.
And you said it yourself. I think you said it was week 2. The defense was, on the field for all but 4 plays.
Yeah,
well,
first quarter, right?
Before week 3, our defense was the 9th ranked passing defense and the 12th ranked rushing defense, which is a hell of a lot better than it was last year and the year before that. I mean, that's top 10 in passing defense and really close to top 10 in rushing defense.
Yeah.
And it's with them being on the field all this time. And yeah, you mentioned, all those injuries, but I always come at it, with next man up. And I think that's why, when Carl Lawson got hurt, a lot of people I felt were sleeping on like John Franklin Myers, sleeping on Bryce Huff. Like, obviously they're not Carl Lawson, obviously, but I feel like there's a lot of potential there. And Lawson being out opened the door for them. I think our interior defensive line is really slept on. Like, I honestly think you look at Quinnen, Sheldon Rankins, and Foley. I think that's one of the best interior groups in the NFL, honestly. I really, really do. You got Quinnen Williams, who everyone knows who he is. Foley's one of the better run stoppers in the league, and he's a young dude. And Rankins is starting to look a little bit like he did back, in 2018 when he was looking like a little bit of a dangerous pass threat. So I think those three guys really solid. But man, those corners, like you mentioned, like right before the season started, I was talking about those guys. Like everyone was saying, oh, the Jets corners are all 5th-round picks, 6th-round picks, and undrafted guys. And for some reason, they were just magically equating that into them sucking. And I'm like, well, hold on, let's take a minute. They may suck, but they haven't played yet. Like
Right.
the season hasn't started yet. Like you can't make if they actually wind up being really good, it's the opposite. And that's, I really, man, between Bryce Hall, Brandon Eccles, Javelin Guidry, and Michael Carter II, I loved the potential of those 4 guys, and they're living up to it. Like those 4 guys look like I said, even Brandon Eccles got beat a little bit. He's a rookie. It's to be expected. But he did play well with Courtland Sutton, who is one of the better wide receivers in the league. People forget that because he was injured last year and he missed that season. But the year before, he was one of the better receivers in the NFL. Hall played him pretty well. Eccles played him pretty well. And man, I think our slot corners, just like with our interior defensive line between Guidry and Carter II, I think they're slept on. I think we have an excellent, excellent slot corner tandem between Javelin Guidry and Michael Carter II.
Yeah, everybody has great potential. That's the whole thing. And it's like imagine if these guys were on the field 30 less plays a game, 25 less play. Imagine. You know what I mean? Like that can be where the guys are getting burned. Like they're doing a good job. Like we're asking in the same respect as we said that we were going to protect Zach Wilson and we ran the ball 12 times against Denver. Like that's taking extra stress and putting it on Zach Wilson. In the same way, we're taking extra stress and putting it on guys that we're just hoping can develop. Like they shouldn't be in a trial by fire. Like these are just like we said, rookies, 5th, 6th-round picks, undrafted free agents, all that sort of stuff. They're playing well, but putting extra stress on them, it's going to break down. And then everybody's going to say they suck and blah. And it's not the case. It's the scenario. It's the system. It's the entire scheme of everything that's going on. And Robert Saleh, hey, look, man, the buck stops with him. He has to find a solution. And worrying, depending on the character and all that shit to kind of bubble up to the top and rise, and it's not going to work. Things need to change. You need to put your foot down and go, you keep dropping passes. You're sitting down this week. If you do one more damn 4th and 1 with an empty backfield, I'm fucking firing you. And like, it's got to be something like that. You got to come into the room and scream at everybody. What is this? You're embarrassing, So, and
no, you're 100% correct, man. You're 100% correct. And the fans agree with you. I mean, look at Tom. Tom's saying these are professional football players that need to play better. And that's exactly it. This isn't Pee-wees. This isn't Division I or college football. This is the NFL. We expect a certain quality level of play. And kind of like what Vern points out, says, not sure the head coach is qualified at this point. Well, he is a rookie head coach, just like Mike LaFleur. He's the first guy in this job. But the expectation when we brought him in was that CEO type, that he's going to be managing Mike LaFleur and managing the defense and keeping everything together. So that's what I really need to see from him. Like people were saying, I think it was, where was it? Vern was pointing out, where's that fire we expected? He's saying we're not seeing emotion. That's what I want to see. Like, I mean, that's what we brought him in as, that CEO type. So that's what I want to see him do right now. I mean, the things aren't going well. Step up and lead. Like you said, hold people accountable.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't believe, and look, I keep dancing around it, but it's the most aggravating thing when you have guys that are dropping passes or proving that they can't get open, and you have a guy on the sideline that you're choosing not to dress, that every single time he has ever stepped on the field, something has happened. Even week 1, they put him on the field for 3 plays, and he didn't do anything that groundbreaking or anything, but it's just him. It's the way he is. Every time he gets on the field, he finds a way to get open. He catches the ball. Almost every single time he makes acrobatic catches, he high points it, and he's strong after the catch. Like, how long can you justify whatever this experiment is that you're doing for Mims's long-term progression, changing his attitude, whatever it is, bullshit that you're doing. Mims has never had a knock that has poor work ethic, bad attitude problem. It's not in his book. It's not
But
there.
all of a sudden it is,
All
which
of
is
a
just
sudden,
weird. It's like all of a sudden,
and
yeah.
again, to me, what it looks like is Mike LaFleur simply can't absorb how to do something else, yet something else that he's not used to doing. He's used to having a specific type of receiver running a specific type of route, and the guy is not there yet to be able to kind of get out of his little thought box. And he needs to get
And
out
I don't
of
know
there
about
quick.
you, man, but to me, that does not sound like scheming to strength.
No, it sounds like
No,
it
it does
just might
not.
be. It sounds like it might be the opposite, Harrison.
Yeah, it sounds like what we might have had last year when we had a guy who we're not going to mention, who, like I always like to say, tries to take a square peg and fit into a round hole, and after it doesn't fit 1,000 times, he just keeps trying.
Right.
That's what we had. We're so used to that, and it's like the same thing we saw last year. Like if we hadn't seen Mims, okay, but we saw him play last year. Most people, and me too, felt like this kid had wide receiver one potential. We talked about how he was supposed to be a first round draft pick. Yeah, he may not be the best route runner, but when it comes to contested catches, man, he's physical. He uses his body and he pulls that ball in. He made some catches last year that were damn impressive. There were many times where he looked like he could be a wide receiver one. And that's why, again, like you said, you got fans going, well, how is he behind Jeff Smith? Like I like Jeff Smith,
right?
But I like the kid, but he's an undrafted kid that used to play quarterback who never even sniffed at Mims's potential in college. Like it just doesn't make sense. And then, like we also said before, if everyone else was lighting it up, like if Corey Davis, Keelan Cole, and Elijah Moore were having unbelievable games and just destroying it, it wouldn't be a conversation.
I wouldn't even bring it up.
How is I come back to Corey Davis, man, and I just don't get it. Like you said, he didn't have drop problems last year. Hell, ask any Titan fans. They gave you a myriad of problems that they felt he had, but none of them were drops. Drops was never something they brought up for him. So I'm honestly flabbergasted. I just don't understand what's going on there.
Yeah, well, do you remember years ago? I'm struggling to remember his name. I believe his last name was Carter. He was a kick returner from the 49ers, and he was the premier punt returner in the NFL. The Jets signed him. He came over as a free agent. He came over, dropped like 4 punts. Like all of a sudden, he's a New York Jet. He forgot how to catch the ball. Fumbles, everything like that. We cut him mid-season. The Niners signed him back, and he went on to have a great career. So, like, there's something here. There's something here that you have to factor in. The idea that Corey Davis all of a sudden can't catch is concerning, and you have to look at it. You can't just expect it to go away. Something has to change. What is the pass plays that we're asking him to catch? What routes is it? The simplest thing, the most comfortable thing for these guys to do, that's what they should be doing. What types of pass plays can Zach Wilson do in his sleep? That's what we're running. What pass plays, what routes is Corey Davis able to run in his sleep? That's what you ask him to do. Get everybody in a rhythm, because right now we're playing with like this panic. And look, even Berrios at the end of the game had a drop. And I'm not the biggest Berrios fan in the world. I like him fine. I like him I like him as a fourth wide receiver, whatever. I don't love that he's kind of, he's become our, he's getting the most targets. I don't think that's the way it should be. But at the same time, he's known as catching whatever the hell you throw at him. He's one of those guys. He catches everything. He's got hands of glue. And he dropped that pass, and it went into the defensive back's hand, and it's a pick. So something is happening, and Saleh needs to address it. And it sucks that he's a first-time head coach, man. I get it. This is not what you wanted to deal with, but this is your bed. You wanted adversity. Here it is. What are we going to do, Saleh?
That's 100% great. You're 100% correct. It's kind of like back to that mentality of the next man up. Like you can't just point fingers and, say, oh, it's this, like we saw with some offensive linemen, like, oh, it's this and that, and this is the problem. No, man up, take responsibility. Like we said, Robert Saleh's supposed to be that CEO type. So let's hear it. Let's hear you in practice saying you're out of position. You're dropping balls. You're not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be seeing.
That's right. And look, and I will say it is refreshing to have people like they don't feel like throwing each other under the bus and all that. And Greg Van Roten is being kind of talked about right now for throwing Zach Wilson under the bus. If you listen to the question and the answer, it's not really what happened. They asked
I was going to say, yeah.
What do you think Zach Wilson could do? And he said, well, if you learn, he's got to learn to get the ball out a little bit quicker. We got to, that's all it was. Like people.
Yeah, but then right after that, he says that, but then immediately says it's on us though. The offensive line is the problem. I think, yeah, people definitely, I felt the same way. I'm glad you brought that up. I felt like when I listened to that myself, I felt like it was out of context.
When I first saw the comment, I thought, oh, shit, here comes the cracks. Here's the fissures in the dam. It's starting. But when I went back and looked at it, I was like, oh, come on, guys. That's not what this is at all. They asked him specifically, what do you think Zach could do? And he said, well, I think he could probably
get the ball out of his hand faster, which is true. I mean, he is holding on to the ball a little more because he's trying to make something happen because like we talked about, the receivers aren't getting open. No one's there downfield. The offensive line can't block. So he's trying to make something happen. And even when you're a veteran quarterback, that's not the easiest situation. When you're a rookie in your third game, that's almost an impossible order to try to make something happen out of nothing. I mean, that's maybe can happen down the road. But if he was doing that now, then that would be pretty crazy. I mean, most quarterbacks can't do that in their third game ever.
Yeah. Hey, did you see that little kid on Instagram or Twitter, and he did that little breakdown of the Jets play? Did you see that? He goes, "Look, this offensive lineman is doing." No. Let me. Can I share? Can I show it to you? Can I share this?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Are you able to?
I think so. Let me check. Let me tinker with your controls.
It was on Twitter.
Yeah, wait, I have it.
All of a sudden on my screen, it's going to say GreenBean now has control.
GreenBean is taking over. Let's see here. Chrome tab. Yeah, I could do it right here. So,
okay, cool.
Let me see. What does that look like?
Okay, so you do that. I can add that.
There we go. Okay. So watch this. I want to point something out. This is like number one, this kid is brilliant. He's like probably 10 years old, but or 12. He's brilliant. He nails it. But at the very end, he talks about Corey Davis. It's only like 5 seconds long, but he talks about Corey Davis. This is exactly where Denzel Mims thrives. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about Denzel Mims. Okay, let me play this for you here. What did it do? Can you see it?
Yeah, we see it.
All right.
Off the edge.
Can you hear
this Jets lineman is probably holding. There's a Patriot charging up the middle.
Can you hear it, Harrison, or do I got to take my headphones
I do.
off?
Yeah. No, we hear it.
Okay. Let me back. Here we go. I'm going to play it through again.
We have 78 touching his own lineman. On top of that, we have 2 receivers with 0 separation, and the cherry on top has to be Zach Wilson throwing this pick. And Corey Davis has no hops.
Wait, watch
if there's
it again.
one play that sums up the New York Jets, this one has to be it. This Patriot's winning off the edge. This Jets lineman is probably holding. There's a Patriot charging up the middle at Zach with no blocking at all. This Jets dude is being pancaked on the ground. We have these 2 idiots staring at each other like, yo, what are we doing? I don't know. Let's just stand here. We have 78 touching his own lineman. On top of that, we have 2 receivers with 0 separation, and the cherry on top has to be Zach Wilson throwing this pick. And Corey Davis has no hops.
And Corey Davis has no
Corey
hops.
Davis has no hops. I like that. That's like the final. Yeah. But it's crazy. It's true. Like you mentioned with week 2, like that interception that Corey Davis is literally responsible for. The corner knocked the ball up in the air. Well, any wide receiver I've ever met is taught in that position to immediately knock the ball down. What does Corey do? He knocks it up. It up. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that is the one thing you're taught not to do in that situation.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, when you have a 6'3" receiver, like, look, the benefit of having tall, big-bodied receivers is that they can win the contested catch. They can go up and get it. Corey Davis probably jumped 3 or 4 inches off the ground there. Denzel Mims, that's the exact place where he comes down with that ball. He jumps up. He's got a great vertical, super long arms. He's known for catching balls with his hands. Like, that's the way he does things. And I firmly believe that if Mims was on the field, those types of plays we could still be coming down with those receptions. And not for nothing, Corey Davis should be able to do the same thing. And it's a shame that he wasn't able to do that.
Yeah, and you see guys like, I appreciate all you guys, appreciate all your guys' comments, got Snoopy, and again, it may be, a little over exaggerated, but it's understandable. I get the feeling. Like, this year it's supposed to be all about Zach, and it feels like they're slowly breaking him. Like New York is breaking all these rookies. Zach's the only one handling it. The best example, a shout out to I believe he writes for USA Today, David Wyatt Upton. He put out numbers today to show that Zach Wilson's average time to either get a pass off or for the pocket to collapse, I couldn't believe this, is 1.7 seconds.
Really?
1.7. He says he's been sacked 15 times, which is the most in the NFL, hurried 14 times, which is second most, and pressured 33 times, which is also most in the NFL. Like, what do you expect from this kid? He literally has no help, and it comes down to that next topic I was going to bring up of the offensive line just being a freaking disaster, just being an absolute freaking disaster. And you mentioned GBR's comment where, it was kind of taken out of context, but I don't know did you get the chance to see that Connor McGovern image of like the comment that he made to like a fan? I don't know if you saw that one.
No, I didn't see that. What's that?
Because I'm going to see if I can bring that up. My big question is this doctored? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, did someone create this? Because if someone did not create this, then Connor McGovern really screwed the hell up. Like, really screwed the hell up. So I'm going to share this with you guys. I imagine a lot of you have seen it, but if you have not, here we go. So as you can see here, and again, I'm hoping this is doctored. I really, really am. But here you have Connor McGovern's, thing up top, starred, apparently a fan shared an image with him, and this is his response back. Slider R, I have the right A gap. I'm doing my job. You're not understanding ball is why players do not give a fuck about you fucking trolls. You have no idea about scheme and how ball is played. I pray to God that Connor McGovern really did not send that message. Because if he did, that's some lowbrow shit. That is really, not just to, say things like, I'm doing my job, it's not on me, but then to say stuff like, you don't give an F, you guys are effing trolls. That's a lot.
Yeah, well, look, this goes back to number one. I agree. He shouldn't have. Look, there's a check mark on that account, so that's been verified to be him. So it's more than likely him. Okay.
Well, I'm just wondering. I don't know if someone took to what do you call it, like clip art and created it or something.
Okay, gotcha. And it could be
that's what I mean.
Everything else, he'll probably come out and say my account was hacked or whatever. How they do that. Anytime they say anything bad, they go, "I was hacked. It wasn't me." But look, I could understand the frustration, with people because, look, these guys, there was somebody that was showing me some stuff written on Zach Wilson's Twitter, I think, after the Patriot game, and it was they were making a big deal about us booing for 5 seconds. Booing is one thing. Going to his Twitter account and saying you're a fucking loser, we should have never traded Sam, stuff like that, which was what I was seeing. That to me is I can't believe people actually think that's okay to do that. I can't even believe that people would do that. So if Connor McGovern is receiving stuff like that, I could understand being frustrated. But this goes back to what I continue to say, what I'm seeing with the offensive line. Now, it's not that I don't see guys getting beaten at times, but the overall problem is that guys are running in free, which means that the assignments are not being either their assignments and their game plan, the actual scheme is ridiculously stupid, and they're responsible for things that don't account for the defense. That's one thing. Number two, that it's so complex that they're not understanding it and they're missing assignments. Game one, every single play, you saw two guys blocking one guy with one guy going free. They couldn't pick up the stunts. So it was a schematic issue. When you have schematic issues, you have to go back to simplicity. Every offensive line coach and every offensive lineman knows man. Every single one of them. You've been doing it since you're 8 years old. All right, block the guy in front of you. This is your space. You're responsible for it. That's it. And you make a wall and nobody comes through it. That's it. If they can't pick it up, they're pulling, they're trying to do all these creative things, and guys are running in free. And so that, to me, even that play, that looks to me like Connor McGovern's responsibility was to worry about the linebacker potentially coming over here. And he's thinking that his guard is picking up the other guy. That's why, like, when we look at things, you can freeze frame anything, go, what the hell was that? But it's like, you don't know what's going on. I mean, Connor McGovern thinks AVT is getting that guy. AVT is like, no, I was supposed to be over here. And that's where the problem is. And this is what they say when offensive lines need time to gel and all that sort of stuff. And what I'm seeing, it's the same thing with LaFleur asking guys to run down the field all day when we should be doing 5-yard dump offs all day long until Zach can get comfortable, is that they're overcomplicating this thing. And for a team that's as young, inexperienced, and quite frankly, riddled with stresses and bad media and all the outside things that come with being a New York Jet, they should be simplifying this stuff. And to me, what I'm seeing, that picture is a great example of it. The guys they're out of position routinely, just like we're seeing with the wide receivers downfield, Harrison.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. And, we've talked about it in the past. I bring it up to all my guys here in the, in my podcast. I'm a big offensive line guy. Like, offensive line is my bread and butter. I've always said, football is won and lost in the trenches. You remember I was a big Creed Humphrey guy. I wanted to bring him onto the team, get us that cerebral center who's killing it with Kansas City, by the way.
Well, of course.
Everyone's like, he shouldn't have been a high pick, but he's killing it at center with Kansas City.
We knew that. Right. We talked about
that. Exactly. But I'm big with offensive line. So, like, I looked at it week one. I saw it immediately what was happening. Like you said, they're out of position. They're out of alignment, miscommunication, missing key, and just not on the same page with each other. And that's a fixable thing. And then week two, they looked better, mainly in the run game. They were opening better running holes. The pass game still wasn't there. Everyone was saying week two, the offensive line looked good. I wasn't ready to go that far. Zach Wilson was still running for his life, still didn't have the protection he needed. They were still getting in easily. The run game was better. But week three, what really bothered me is, yes, we had the same things we had in week one, where they were out of alignment, out of place, miscommunication. But one thing we didn't see in those other 2 weeks is they were getting manhandled. Like, there were plays where they were just legitimately getting manhandled. Like GVR just getting blasted through. Morgan Moses shouldn't have even wasted his time blocking Von Miller a couple of times. Connor McGovern was getting blasted through. So that scared me a lot. Because that's not fixable. That is not a fixable thing. So now I'm worried because we've seen weeks where they're out of key and out of touch and not in communication with each other. But now we're also seeing them getting destroyed. Man, that's our investment back there. Like, that's our future. Like, Zach Wilson, this is the guy. And I'm just terrified that these guys are going to get him killed.
Yeah. Well, look, and here's the thing. Like, when you remember that there was one play with AVT from the first game where he got knocked on his ass and everybody that made its rounds on Twitter. If you watch the play, he's about to do something else and gets hit in his shoulder this way, so he's off balance. That's the problem with look, offensive line. What's the most important thing to do is to have your feet set, is to have you be on your toes and have your feet set. Never reach your heels. Why? Never let them get their hands underneath, because it's all about leverage. That's the entire thing with offensive line. So if you're going over here and somebody hits you here, dude, you're going to fall on your ass. And that's the problem. And this is where, again, I'm going to back it up to the coaching. They need to understand where the limitations are, what the defense is going to present. And when they see things that we're not stopping, be able to adjust and go, okay, we're clearly not ready for that. We need to go back to this and make that the concern of the day. Is like, how do we protect these players when they are inexperienced, still not completely fluid in the offensive schemes or whatever it might be? But that's the thing. We're asking everybody to do too much, and they're routinely out of position. Again, just like the wide receivers are downfield, they're all bunched up in the same spot. Like, clearly they don't know what they're doing. Clearly. So we have to simplify it. Dude, fucking play man line and 5-yard slants all day long. That's as soon as they pull in to cover it, then you can start to spread it out a little bit more. Running the ball 12 times isn't going to work. Like, we're abandoning everything that they told us we were going to do. And that's what I think that we're seeing.
Yeah, and I talked about it on my show week 2. Like we saw week 2 with the Patriots. Week 1, Damian Harris had 100 yards and averaged like 4.3 yards per carry because they get what they need to do. Unfortunately, Bill gets it. You need to have a solid, good running game to open up the passing game, open up the play action, take the pressure off the quarterback, and allow things to be created. Well, having an offensive line that isn't opening any holes is definitely part of the problem. So that is definitely part of our issue. But at the same time, the running backs look good week 2. Yesterday, they struggled again. And again, the offensive line plays a major, major role of it. But
Totally.
the running game is not there. And like we saw, week 1, week 2, we said I said we need to stop Damian Harris if we're going to win. We didn't. So far, we can't stop the running game. And that's the one thing we don't have. And you need that running game to be able to take that pressure off Zach. Because if there is no running game and the offensive line can't block, then you have what we're seeing right now, a rookie quarterback who doesn't have the ability to fully gauge a field or read a defense because he hasn't seen it before, and he's trying to make something happen because it's all on him, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, and generally speaking, what we would do is you would back it up to the offensive coordinator who would see what's going on and be able to implement simpler concepts or whatever it is to respond to that. But the problem is when they go back to the offensive coordinator, he doesn't know what to do. So
that's why I kept coming back. Yeah, you're with me. That's why I kept coming back. And I don't want to. Like, the voice in my head is like, he's a rookie, he's new. But like I said, I just come back at the same time where, if anything is going to be massively detrimental to Zach Wilson's development and him potentially developing bad habits, one of the top things on that list is having a bad offensive coordinator that puts you in bad positions.
Yep. And look, just like you, I am willing to give the time. I am. But not when we're unable to get a single point, not when we've been outscored 46-3 in the first half. Like, if that's what we're putting out there, like, you have to at least be able to compete in the NFL. If you can't beat anybody yet, that's fine. I'm willing to accept that. I'm willing to accept rookie mistakes. I'm willing to accept the growth. But dude, you're getting your quarterback killed. You're getting players hurt. And in the meantime, the defense is huffing and puffing to try to keep up. So we're going to lose them. They're going to start getting hurt, all kinds of stuff. So what we have to do is we have to figure out now if we have to run 5 plays, dude, like seriously, if we have to simplify it to just like a core basic offense just to get things going, then that's what you need to do. And, I'm still not saying people suck, but we're ruining this kid just like we ruined Sam Darnold while he was here. And that's the one thing that we can't allow to happen, man.
And that honestly is like literally the biggest fear I come back to, because as you know, with Sam, obviously, a lot of people felt, this kid could be good with talent, but no one figures, he's going to be the greatest quarterback. Like, he's not going to be a top 5, top 10 quarterback. I've said it to you. I've said it to all the guys here. I firmly believe, and very wholeheartedly from what I've seen from the QB eval I've done, that Zach Wilson has the potential to be as good as anybody. This kid has all the potential to be a top 5 quarterback. So I just get so afraid, man, that if that doesn't happen and we ruin this, that's I don't even want to say it. Like, I can't even finish that sentence because that's what scares me the most. Because like we said, Sam was never had that potential. We now have a quarterback that does. And that's what scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, it is scary, man. Because again, I think most realistic Jets fans, I mean, we have our extreme faction. Like, no matter what you do, everything sucks and all that. Of course, every fan base has them. But I think most Jets fans were pretty realistic in their expectations this year. And it was all about, we want to see competitive football. We're willing to watch this thing grow. We understand all the rooks. We like what you chose to do. Like, we're the youngest team in the league for a reason. We chose to do that. We're playing more rookies than any NFL team. We're the youngest NFL team in the league. All those great things. That's all well and good. We're in there with you. But you still can't put out a product that's getting people hurt. So, that's where the issue is. Like, that's where it is. You have to at least be an NFL football team. All we want is competitiveness and development. That's it. If you can provide that, we're fine. We don't even need to win. We can go fucking 0-17. If Zach throws for 3,900 yards and everything, everything looks good, I'm fine with that. But this can't continue.
And I'm with you. And yeah, all offseason before the season began, a lot of people had me on their shows, and I noticed it was almost like clockwork. Everyone's final question was always the same. What do you predict for the win-loss of this team? And I always gave the same answer, that I felt, the potential is there, that if they can really jive and really click, they could win a lot. But win and loss, like you just said, didn't matter as much to me. I wanted to see the team gelling. I wanted to see us moving in the right direction. Zach Wilson getting better every week, making better decisions every week, not making the same mistakes like we saw with other quarterbacks in the past. The running game getting better, the defense getting better, as long as we're moving in the right direction.
Right.
But so far, we're not. I know the season's early, but we're not.
Yeah. And it's scary, man. Like you said, I mean, that's the word. It's like, it's scary. I mean, how do you take a fan base that is as passionate and weather beaten as us and put out this product? Like, again, like when we went to that home opener, dude, I haven't been to a Jets game since 2009 that had that energy to it. And I didn't make it to one in 2010. So obviously but I haven't
the Rex
been
Ryan years.
Right. I haven't been to a game since 2009 that felt like the Patriot home opener. I'm telling you, when we walked in there, it was like the old days, Harrison. Were you there? Were you able to make it?
Unfortunately not. No, I wasn't
Okay,
able to
all
make
right.
the game. I'm hoping to make one this season. I made it to the preseason, but unfortunately the games are a little pricey, and I'm figuring things out right now.
Just so you know, Jet Nation has a great deal for the Titans game, man. $150 for lower level seat and full tailgate, all food and drink, everything included. If anybody wants to know, there are still a handful of tickets left. I was just talking to him yesterday about it. But anyway, but like the old days in Giant Stadium, like when you were going up the escalators, it was like Jets chants constantly everywhere you went. And the past 10 years hasn't been like that. It's been like, we're going to go watch a loss. We're just hanging out. That game against the Patriots felt like that. There were Jets chants everywhere. Everybody was screaming. Everybody was so pumped. And it was just like nothing, so this can't continue. I still have faith. They got to learn all this stuff. Hey, bud, sorry, it's being accelerated. You got to do what you were going to do quicker. We need answers right now, or else this team everybody's going to turn on you. This town will turn on you, man, in a hurry. There'll be fire Salah signs.
Without question. Because like you said, I mean, we've been through the ringer long enough. I mean, we saw it already. Some Jet fans are already saying, the SOJ, the same old Jets. Like you said, I'm not ready to go that far. I feel like we have the right GM in place. It's baby steps. You got to build this team. I feel like he nailed this last draft. I feel like this last draft really has the potential to possibly go down as one of the best Jets draft classes ever down the road.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, I think 2020 is underappreciated, mainly because of all those injuries, which he has no control over. But there have been an insane amount of injuries. Almost that entire draft class is injured. And we're moving in the right direction. The right pieces are in place. I don't feel like we're at that point yet, but it's scary. Jet fans, like you said, it's easy to snap back to that mentality because we've been there for so long. So it's easy to, go back and just be like, oh, same thing, different people in place, but same crap.
Yeah, because it feels the same. It's crazy. It feels exactly the same as we watched, like the first couple of games with Sam Darnold in 2020. It was just like, oh, this season's a wash. And it almost feels like it's crazy. It feels the same. Amazing.
Yeah, but I come back to this offensive line, man, because very simply, and this is again what excited me so much about when Joe came in. One of the first things he said was, I firmly believe that football is won and lost in the trenches. And that has always been my mantra. That's always been my calling card. And I feel like the defensive line is doing a very good job, especially like you said, with key injuries like Lawson being out. I feel like the interior of that defensive line is very underappreciated. But this offensive line, man, like we said, the Joe Douglas, the drafts have been good, but you can definitely put this offensive line on him because he's an offensive line guy. Like that was his calling card. He said football is going to be won and lost in the trenches. And with Zach back there running for his life, it's a problem right now. I mean, honestly, other than AVT having potential, Morgan Moses looking okay at times, the whole offensive line is a train wreck.
Yeah, again, I mean, like I said, what I'm seeing is a schematic failure. I mean, look, we used 2 first-round picks on the offensive line. We used a fourth-round pick on the offensive line. We brought in premier free agents, top 10 center. We brought in Morgan Moses. So there's a lot of attention going to the offensive line. Now we've had injuries, we've had retirements, all that baloney. But there's been a lot of effort placed in the offensive line. In my opinion, the talent is there to at least be middle of the pack. And like I said, when I look at a replay, when I'm watching the game, again, I watch where guys are and what their assignments are. And I'm seeing missed pickups all day long. That's a schematic failure. Unless the guys are so bad that they don't even belong on an NFL field. But dude, Connor McGovern was not that way. That's not. And look, he's getting beat.
And that comes down to coaching, though.
That's my point.
Coaching, and that's a real. But like I said, I mean, I felt that way too. Like week 100% that, even though I couldn't think of a better word other than horrendous. Like that offensive line week 1 was just a travesty.
Oh my God.
But last week against Denver, I felt like I saw that again. But even more than that, I was watching our guys just getting manhandled and blown past, and it really, really worries me because I feel like we look at. Anytime we go back to any of the years when we had a good offense on this team, always had a good offensive line. I mean, those 09 and 010 years, when you're talking about, with Mark Sanchez, when the offense was, looking good. Nick Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Brandon Moore, Damian Woody, like Willie Colon. Like there was quality along that offensive line. And I don't know, man. I mean, I believe in Joe Douglas. I do believe he, is doing all the right things. Otherwise, I think the 2020 draft's underappreciated, but the offensive line is 100% on him. And as an offensive line guy, he's got to do something about it.
Yeah, that's John Benton, man. I mean, he's known as he's known as one of the better offensive line coaches in the league. Again, I think it's just like we're seeing problems with the meshing of this offense as a whole. Like it's the whole unit. Now, if it was only the offensive line and receivers were getting separation, everything was going, and we were looking at guys just getting straight up beat all day long, then that's one thing. But what we're looking at is an entire failure as a unit. Like you can point to any one piece and go, they should have did this there. They should have did this. Like there's no one that's doing anything really all that well. And I feel bad for Zach because when you look at all the drops, while he's had his clams, when you look at all the drops and shit and you look at all the sacks, I mean, what can you expect a rookie quarterback to do but get hurt? I mean, that's what we're going to see soon, Harrison. But it's like, for me, it's coaching. It's like you guys have to be able to pay attention to where we're lacking and fix it. That's your job. There are professionals on that offensive line. Morgan Moses has been a very solid right tackle his entire career. Greg Van Roten was Connor McGovern was a top 10 guard and center in this league for years. AVT is a by all accounts the premier guard in the entire draft. Becton's hurt, but Fant is a serviceable tackle in the league. Like, so they should be able to at least be average. When that line can't be average, there's a problem. And the problem is schematics.
Yeah, man, you remember, I think, no, I get you. And I felt that way too. I felt specifically, like we said, week 1, it was definitely, miscommunication, misalignment. But like I said, week 3 really scared me because I felt like I saw that and what you don't want to see, them just getting manhandled and beat even when they were in the right position. But I come back to McGovern because I think you remember, like last year, everyone was like, McGovern was a top 10 center toward the second half of the year, top 10 center. I think I was, one of the few ones that wasn't happy with McGovern. I was very, very outspoken with it last year. I was saying, yeah, he was a top 10 center the second half of the year, but he was one of the worst centers in the NFL the first half of the year. Right. And pardon me, but I like consistency. I like remember we talked about it. I come back to guys like Nick Mangold. We had guys like Fields, Sweeney. We've had great centers on this team. And I felt like, McGovern, even if he could be okay, I wasn't happy with him. I remember last year, that was my calling card. I didn't want him to stay at center. And everyone's starting to feel the same way. Like I'm seeing it on Twitter. Everyone's like, get Connor McGovern out of there.
Yeah, who are they putting in?
That's the problem. Exactly. I mean, Dan Feeney ain't much of an upgrade.
Yeah, who are you putting in?
That's exactly the problem.
See, that's
exactly,
the thing.
man.
I was definitely in favor of taking a guard in the first round. Look, with respect, I wouldn't have traded up for AVT. I would have stayed where I was and did it that way. But that is what it is. But I was definitely on board with grabbing a center and moving Connor McGovern to guard, which is his natural
That's
position.
that was. I don't know if that was my whole thing last year. Like, that was because my big thing was, again, with a center, I come back to like those Nick Mangolds. I want my center to be like a Creed Humphrey, a guy that actually studies film, understands alignments. Like we talked about with Mangold. You remember with Mark Sanchez back there? How many times did Mangold adjust the line for Mark, or call an audible for him, or point something out he didn't see? It's just such an important position that we've had such great play with guys like Kevin Mawai in the past. I feel like that's a big thing we need, and it's got to be something we address next year. It has to be. I wanted Humphrey. That didn't happen. That was my cerebral center that I wanted. It's got to be something we address because, like we pointed out last year, I mean, being a really good center the second half of the year, but then one of the worst for the first half doesn't cut it. And right now, Connor McGovern's kind of doing the same thing. Right now, he looks like one of the worst centers in the league. So maybe the second half of the year, he'll look good. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, look, it's interesting when you have a guy who, like, I get entirely what you're saying, but like when somebody settles in and has a good second half of the last year, what you're hoping is they'll carry that over.
That's
but then
hope,
again, then
especially because there's a wide zone scheme that he thrives in.
That he thrives in. So again, I mean, for me, it just looks like the coaches are lost for answers, and we could have expected this, because first time this, first time that, it's fine. Again, even with all that included, this shouldn't be what we're seeing. So they need to fix it, man. Like I said, average is all we're asking for. Competitive. If they lose every game by 7 points, 10 points, that's fine. As long as we're in the games, man, as long as we're competing, as long as we're able to see progress. And even with the young defensive backs that we're seeing, I mean, they look good. They're fighting, they're learning, they're developing, but even they are going to get taken advantage of because they're on the field for too damn long. So everything's going to break down, all because the offensive staff can't figure it out.
Mm-hmm. And that's when we talk about the offensive line. And again, if you can't keep your quarterback upright, we said before, what was it? I had it up here a second ago. He said that Zach Wilson had 1.7 seconds on average. It's insanity. That's utter insanity. He's literally sacks, hurries, top of the NFL. So obviously the offensive line is a disaster. But like we talked also before, the wide receivers are dropping a lot of passes. And what's crazy, they're mostly perfect passes too. Like these passes, that week one, Elijah Moore drops that key pass where Zach Wilson evades the pressure and he wasn't even perfectly set with his feet. Off kilter, throws a beautiful 60-yard bomb that hits Moore right in the hands. Yeah. That perfect pass that Corey Davis dropped that was so crucial hit him right in the hands. Like all of these balls that these wide receivers are dropping are great passes that Zach Wilson is throwing great balls. And it's killer, man. It's just killer.
Look, and while he is sloppy at times, to be expected. You're absolutely right. He is showing such fine touch, escapability, like he's showing so much talent. And dude, when he's able to evade pressure and get the ball to your friggin' hands, you got to catch it. And Saleh needs to come into that wide receiver room and say, "We've had it. I will cut 100%. The whole lot of you. You know what I mean? I'll sit you. You guys think
like you said, the fact that Mims is inactive is just pissing fans off even more.
Totally.
Because it's not like these guys are lighting it up.
Right. Like you said, dude, as much, I'm a huge Mims fan. I loved him coming out in the draft. I never thought we had any potential of getting him without a crazy trade up, which I was against. The fact that he was ours, I thought finally the gods are smiling on us. Like how many times Michael Thomas slipped to the second, Terry McLaurin, like all these DK Metcalf. It happens all the time that great receivers slide down to the second and third round. We found ours, and it would be really cool if our coaching staff could get him on the goddamn field. Pardon my language.
Yeah, and same thing with Elijah Moore. We're seeing him on the field now, and yeah, he's dropping some key balls, but he is looking better. He's a rookie. That's to be expected. What's not to be expected is what's happening with Corey Davis. So, like, to give you an example, and shout out to DJ Bieniemy, one of the Jets beat writers, he put these numbers out. He said that the league average for yards of separation is supposed to be 2.88. Keelan Cole and Elijah Moore are both doing well. Cole's got a 3.5. Elijah Moore's got a 4.47. Corey Davis is averaging 1.67 yards of separation. That is an entire yard less than the league average. And that's supposed to be our wide receiver one. It's crazy.
Big problem, dude.
I look at these numbers, Connor Hughes pointed out. Shout out to Connor Hughes. Same thing. He points out that in the Broncos game, Zach Wilson had a 54.3% completion percentage. But when you adjust that to factor in the drops, it's almost 70%. 70 to 54 is a massive, massive difference.
Right. And then you add on top of that the 15 sacks. You know what I mean? Then you add on top of that the 14 hits. And it's like, look what this guy is dealing with, man. Like LaFleur, you got to figure this out. Benton, Kavanaugh, you got to figure this out. The kid's playing his damn heart out. He's playing. And he's going to throw his clams. He's going to have his bad day. But even the 4 interception day, dude, it wasn't all his fault.
Nah, it's tough, man. It's been it's ridiculous.
And heartbreaking.
Wide receivers, they're not doing him any favors. They're not. And like I remember last year, one of the coaches I kind of wanted to be kept around. Obviously, one was Brent Boyer, but I kind of wanted Sean Jefferson to be kept around, the wide receivers.
Yeah, I like
coach.
Jefferson.
Because I don't know if you remembered. I think it was Jaleel Scott, I believe. It was a guy that was just elevated from the practice squad. He made like a 15-yard catch. I think you remember Jefferson went nuts. He was screaming on the sideline. He was happy for him. He was patting him on the back. That's what I want to see. And man, I don't want to throw our wide receivers coach under the bus already, but this is a problem. Like this is not an issue Corey Davis had in the past. Like we just said, he's averaging less yards per separation than, forget wide receiver ones, the league average. He's less than the league average, and he's supposed to be our wide receiver one. Like I said, you saw Barrios dropping some balls. More is to be expected. He's a rookie, but that's it. He's the only one that's got the excuse. That's it.
Michael Carter, Ty Johnson. I mean, it's incessant. It's everywhere. And that's a major problem. And like you said, like, look, how much impact does a wide receivers coach really have? I don't know, but something is amiss. Something is up. And I'm with you, man. Sean Jefferson was one of the coaches, maybe one of the only coaches that I thought was really quality on Gase's staff. And just like you, I loved his energy. I loved his passion. I loved his communication skills. I loved most things about him. And he was a very effective coach. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't know if Miles Austin is great or not. I don't really have the ability to put a finger on exactly what he does and all that sort of stuff. But whatever it is, his unit is a big problem right now. And just like you said, from taking a quarterback from a 54% to a 70%, all because of your unit, is a problem that must be addressed. But I think it goes back to Saleh saying, dude, we need some accountability here, man. If you're going to do that, you're not playing. Why is Corey Davis the written in wide receiver one with no competition when he's dropping 6 passes and whatever hell else he's doing, and picks are happening and everything else, and he's not jumping, and just, I mean, it's on and on and on with him. I don't know what it is, and I'm not bashing the player. I'm just talking about what we're seeing. Something's up, and there must be accountability, especially while we have a guy like Denzel Mims sitting there wearing sneakers and a tank top.
Yeah, and with the Titans, we heard, a lot of people saying, oh, maybe he's not a wide receiver one. He doesn't do a great job creating separation and getting open. But they never knocked him for drops. That was never anything I ever heard from Titan fans. They said a million things they didn't like about him, but it was never that he was dropping the ball when it was hitting him in the hands. That was not the problem. So what is happening?
Something's up.
I just don't. It's mind boggling to me. Like it's literally mind boggling. Like we said, when you have the wide receivers that can't catch anything, literally you have a rookie quarterback who has no time in the pocket, constantly under duress, escapes, throws a perfect ball, and you drop it. I mean, what else can Zach do? And that's why anyone who's putting it on Zach is out of their mind. Like, unfortunately, he's the one thing that's kind of, keeping me sane right now. That I'm like, okay, well, when this gets together, Zach looks really special. It's just literally all going to crap.
Right. Imagine if those things did happen, right? Like, so let's say the wide receivers were catching all those passes. Let's say we take
if Elijah Moore caught that ball week 1, that could have been a game changer right there.
Everything changes. And if Michael Carter doesn't drop that pass on that drive last week, I mean, so let's say all the drops were catches. We don't know how much better Zach Wilson would even be from that. Because that's momentum, that's groove, that's everything. That's how you start to get in a rhythm and everything else. We're stopping any potential, whether it's a sack or a drop pass. We're stopping whatever this kid gets going. We're crushing it. We're stabbing it in the heart with a wooden stake. And so again, just the drops alone bring them up to a 70% completion percentage. If those were caught, we don't even know how good he could be. He could be up to 75. You know what I mean? So again, it's not Zach Wilson. Anybody saying like we made the wrong move picking Zach Wilson, you don't know what you're watching. I mean, honestly, it's just, I get being frustrated. I do. But saying like we shouldn't have traded Sam for, dude, the kid he's more than given us what we hoped. The problem is we could potentially be damaging him. We're seeing him. He looks a little jumpier than he did coming into the season now. So that's what we don't want to see. We don't want to develop happy feet, man. He's young.
Yeah.
Looks like,
and that's kind of like we said, that's what I come back to. Like that stupid rhetoric of all the fans booing Zach are going to ruin him. That's stupid. That's just stupid. But the wide receivers dropping these perfect passes, the offensive line getting him killed out there, not being able to develop chemistry, camaraderie, the play calling not being great. That is the kind of thing that can do that. And like you kind of said before, with the chemistry, there's a lot of things you can buy in this world. Chemistry is not one of them.
Nope. Got to work for it. Got to earn it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting week. I mean, I'm psyched about the game. I mean, I'm here to I'm going to watch Jets football. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to root. I'm going to deconstruct what I can deconstruct. And I'm going to boo when I can boo. I'm going to do whatever I can. But the truth is that it's scary times right now. But we do have to remember, like we really do, we are the youngest team in the NFL. We have a first-time offensive coordinator with a first-time head coach with a rookie quarterback, and the most rookies starting in the NFL. Like, so there's a lot here. Let's just watch and see how the season goes. We don't know what can happen. We might end up turning this around and win 5 in a row. We don't know. You know what I mean? So everybody just keep cool, keep the faith, everybody.
And you know how it is. If we turn around and win 5 in a row, the whole story is going to change. It's going to be that the Jets were right all along. They took all the right people. Everyone is in the right place.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, like we talk about, we're not definitively saying that Mike LaFleur is the problem. We're starting to speculate it a little bit based on what we're seeing, based on this not scheming the strengths, based on people not being able to get open.
Correct.
It makes you wonder. It just really makes you wonder. And like we talked about before, I forgot who it was. It was one of you guys in the comments. Shout out to you guys. I'm going to try to find it right now. One of you guys said it, which is perfect. They said, is Saleh going to have the cojones to basically, fire, your sister's brother, someone that close to you? Man, if you want to be the CEO, that's exactly what you got to do. Trying to find it. I think it was Vern, I believe. If you want to be the CEO, that's exactly what you got to do. You got to make the hard decisions, and you got to do what's right for the team and not what's right for yourself.
Correct. That's correct, my friend. And but that all said, while I do agree with that, I don't think we're going to see Mike LaFleur fired for 2 years. I mean, they're going to stay the course. Like they're a package deal, just like Joe Douglas kind of tied his career to Saleh. I think Saleh more than likely tied his career to Mike LaFleur. I think this is what we're going to see, guys. I mean, that's just my thought right now. I think what we have to hope for is that they put in the work and figure it out. Like, that's what they're known as a talented bunch of guys, right? John Benton is known as a very good offensive line coach. Mike LaFleur is known as a very smart young offensive mind. Robert Saleh, everybody sings his praises, so it goes on and on and on. With our coaching staff. So they have talent, just like there's talent on our team. We're not going to beat the Chiefs and the Bucks, and we're not there yet, but there is talent. What they have to do is figure it out. And that's what we have to hope happens sooner rather than later, because the young man's career hangs in the balance, man.
100%, man. 100%. So before we head out with you guys, just going to bring up some more of your guys' comments. I appreciate all you guys, everyone that's here. Appreciate your guys' comments throughout the show. Me and GreenBean were talking a lot, so I'm going to try to, bring up some of your guys' older comments as well. One that really stuck out to me, because it's, one that I've been making this argument for a long time, is our running game is bad. Like, clearly we can't get a good running game together. I've been a big Josh Adams fan for a long time. And I think, Bean, we talked about it on your channel. As much as you might like LaMichael Pirine, and even though I start to like him, I've liked him more now. Josh Adams, man, every time he's gotten the opportunity, he's delivered. Like, you look at these numbers right here. So, like, in the preseason, in week one, Josh Adams only had 2 carries, and he can't control that. And that's always been, my big calling card to remind people. Like, Josh Adams can't go and yell at the coaches and be like, I want more carries, give me the ball. It doesn't work like that. So he's only got 2 carries, but he averaged 7 yards per carry. That was the most out of all of our running backs. They didn't give him the ball week 2, which, again, he can't control. He can't give himself the ball. It doesn't work like that. But week 3 in the preseason, they gave him 12 carries, and he averaged 5.2. Again, the highest among all of our running backs. And if we go back and look at 2020, Josh Adams only got 29 carries, but he, again, averaged more than every running back on that team, including Ty Johnson. So I look at Josh Adams. I mean, he's a big guy. He's strong. So he's a powerful guy, but he's also got speed, also got agility. I look at it as, I don't know what this kid could do to get more opportunities. Like, every time they give him the ball, he averages more yards per carry than any of the other Jets running backs. So I don't personally know, because, again, he can't hand him to himself. I just don't know what this kid can do to get more opportunities. Like, I don't get why he's not getting them.
Well, look, I do agree with that. And as you know, I'm a LaMichael Pirine supporter, but not only because of what he brings in the running game. He's also he has very good hands, but even more importantly, he's excellent in pass protection. He's the best blocker that we have in the backfield. Ty Johnson and Michael Carter, while there has been improvement, they're liabilities in pass protection. They're not really helping the cause. And look, man, I said it in the preseason. I said it out. Yeah,
he said the same thing.
Yeah, he's right. And so the thing with, look, I kind of got my head chopped off about it in the preseason or in the training camp and everything. He was one of my potential surprise cuts, was Ty Johnson. I mean, dude, Ty Johnson, as fun as he can be to watch with the ball in his hands that time, again, liability and pass protection, not the greatest hands. He did have a drop last week, and he's not exactly what people are hoping he is. So when you have somebody like a LaMichael Pirine, like a Josh Adams, that have proven when they're on the field they can do certain things, I would rather see a backfield with Michael Carter as kind of the lead back, with LaMichael Pirine and Josh Adams kind of sprinkled in, and pass protection and those types of things, passing outlets. LaMichael Pirine catches, dude. That's one thing. He's got great hands. So I would rather see that than Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson. I mean, I'm not the biggest Ty Johnson fan. Don't hate him. Not saying he sucks yet. But again, I would rather see some of Josh Adams and with LaMichael Pirine in there than I would what we're seeing right now, man. And the way I see it,
my feeling on it was,
well, just with Denzel Mims. No, just like with Denzel Mims. It's like, if what we were doing is working, hey, I could give a shit. Honestly.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to win.
Right. If Ty Johnson was just doing everything I'm 100% in, dude. But it's not working. So why don't we move over to some guys that are chomping at the bit to get on the field? And for whatever reason you're not using them, let's see what they got.
Well, I do like the potential with Ty Johnson. Again, I felt all offseason, I was saying I felt like Josh Adams was the better of the backs. I felt like he should get more opportunities. But we saw, Michael Carter and Ty Johnson together at over 100 yards week 2. Clearly, they didn't do that week 3, but they looked good in the preseason. So did Josh Adams. So did LaMichael Pirine. So my big take is, and I never understood why it didn't happen this way, is why are we debating if we're a young team? And we're building. We're obviously a building team that's not there yet. Why are we debating which young running back to cut if they all look good? So, my big feeling was maybe it was time to say goodbye to Tevin Coleman because that dude's 28. He's 28 years old and he's not in any future plans. I mean, between Pirine, Carter, Johnson, and Adams, they're all 22, 23, 24 years old. So I'm like, if they all look good, that was the backfield I wanted. I wanted to see all the young bucks and let the old guy walk.
Yeah. Well, look, and what was the knock on Tevin Coleman? Everybody's like, yeah, he's a talented guy, but he's not going to make it through the season. I mean, I thought he'd make it to week 6, something like that. Week 8.
Not week 2.
Week 2, he's gone. So that's the thing, man. When you're cutting young legs for an old guy, I understand the mindset of wanting to have a little veteran presence. I get it. I totally understand. At the same time, we knew he wasn't going to make it through the season, and he's out even earlier than we thought. So why not to just elevate? I mean, Josh Adams he's been elevated to the 53, but he's still a healthy scratch. So we got guys like LaMichael Pirine, Josh Adams, Denzel Mims sitting. And that's where I'd like to see some change.
Which is why I wanted to throw Kevin's comment up down here because I think he nailed it. So, like Salah said without realizing yesterday, they do look great and they look great in practice. If I hear Robert Saleh say one more time how good Denzel Mims looks in practice, I think I'm going to throw my iPad through the television. If I hear that one more time.
Because honestly, it sounds just like Gase. It sounds just like
that's the point. Exactly. It sounded like a cop-out answer. Like the other answer at least was good, where he's explaining the logic behind it. Don't tell me the guy's having. If he's having a good practice, why is he inactive?
Right. Whatever this experiment is. Look, dude, if this was a veteran coaching staff, let's just throw out a name like Parcells. Parcells was choosing to sit a 23-year-old wide receiver. You would trust it. You would go, no, he's doing something. Either the guy's a complete shitbag or he's, they're working on something with him. He's not quite ready. You would trust it. With what we're seeing and some of their other choices, like we just talked about with the running backs, we had the Morgan Moses, George Fant thing. There's a lot of interesting, questionable takes. And then, like you said, they're talking about these great practices and an ineffective offense on game day. Then where are these guys? So that's the whole question. I'm with you. If I hear practice is great one more time, I'm going to puke.
That seems to be that's the go-to answer now. The go-to answer is well, Mims had a good practice.
Yeah, he's so good. We love him, they said. We love Denzel Mims. Yes, so do we. Can we watch him, please?
Yeah, and the answer obviously is, I want to see him play. But if you're going to literally make him inactive every week and not play him, then let's get something. If you're literally never going to use this kid, can you get a 3rd-round pick? Can you get a second? I don't want to trade him. I don't. Either. But if he's just going to be inactive every freaking week, it's just crazy. It's you have this guy with all this potential that other teams have inquired about that are probably willing to give something decent for because they know what he has the potential to be, and you're doing nothing with him. And
yeah. And one of those teams,
either trade him or play him. That's it.
Agreed. One of those teams was rumored to be the Panthers with Matt Rule, who was his coach in college. Matt Rule's probably thinking, dude, what a bunch of idiots. This kid's great. You know what I mean? He was clutch for Baylor, dude. Whenever they had a 4th and 1 or 5 seconds left, 30-yard, dude, it was always to Mims because he's clutch. He's a gamer. And I can't believe that we can't figure it out, dude. It's so frustrating, Harrison.
Yeah, and for example, yeah, right. Appreciate all you guys that are here. Yeah, right says, I was unhappy GVR was not replaced. I knew he was trash from last season. Maybe Joe D listened to PFF, who graded GFR well last year. When it comes to PFF, man, PFF lost all credibility when they said Mark Sanchez was the worst Jets draft pick ever. Like that was like one of the worst things they could have ever said. But when it comes to the offensive line, like, we're not happy with GVR, but GreenBean said it, I think it was like 20 minutes ago or so. We were talking about the offensive line. He's like, who are you going to bring in? And that's exactly the point. Like, if you guys remember in the preseason, I kept saying, even though our starting offensive line at the time looked good, our backups were a train wreck. Our backup offensive linemen looked like the worst thing I'd ever seen. So, like, and the best example is Dan Feeney. Like, if we had quality offensive linemen, Dan Feeney has no business making the roster. But we have such bad backup offensive linemen. He's legitimately our first guy to go in. Yeah. And that's the point. If you take out GVR, you're putting in Feeney. And that's as bad as GVR is, that's probably a worse move.
It might be. The good news is that we have depth at the tackle position. That's why when Becton went down, you're able to put George Fant in. We still have Chuma Edoga, who is not as bad as people like to say he is. And we have Connor McDermott as well, even though he's injured currently. He's on short-term IR. But so that's the thing. It takes time to do this. It takes time. Like, we do have talent. I think Joe Douglas has brought in 12 offensive linemen in the past 2 years. So you can't, it's not for lack of trying. In my opinion, it's about the coaching right now. That's what I see. But to get to that question, but just to say to Kevin's question, I agree, but I really do believe, and Harrison, you could tell me if you agree or not. I think I'm confident that the plan was for Cam Clark to win that job. And so that's what they were doing. They had Cam Clark and he was getting more playing time in training camp, and he had that crazy freak spinal injury.
Yeah,
they did
that was
go
a
out
bad injury too.
Yeah, and since they went out and brought in a couple guards, they just didn't work out. And but that was the plan. The plan was for Cam Clark to win that job and be the guy with Greg Van Roten and Dan Feeney as the backups, which would be fine. So I think that's just one of those things.
And the plan was also to have Mekhi Becton at left tackle on the blind side. And last year as a rookie, he was excellent. Many even argued that he arguably was a Pro Bowler in his rookie year. And as we saw this offseason, everyone said they wanted him to lose weight. I didn't think he needed to. I'm saying this guy is running just as fast as offensive linemen that are 100 pounds less than him. But he did. He took off about 20 pounds, got himself in a little better shape. Just another freak accident. And it wasn't, people are saying Mekhi Becton's injury prone. It's not like it's the shoulder again. This is just, unfortunately, this happens. I mean, this is the NFL. The NFL, anyone who's ever played it, you mentioned it, you coached. This is a grown man's game. People get hit hard and they get knocked out, which is why we see rookies getting hurt all the time. Elijah Moore was banged up for a little while. Mims was banged up in his rookie year. It's tough to play in the NFL. These are grown men making big money for a reason. So, yeah, I mean, Mekhi at left tackle, things would have been different. I think you're right with Clark potentially supposed to be that guy, because right when we took AVT, man, I was thrilled. I was like, this is great. We traded up. We got the way I looked at AVT for like people to think about it. I think I said the same thing when I was on your show with you. AVT has like the potential of like when the Colts took Quinn and Nelson. Like that's the caliber of what this kid could potentially be. So I'm like, oh, great. We got a guard. Now we're going to take one later in the draft, because there were so many guys I liked in the later rounds.
So many, right, man?
And we didn't. So that, I think I'm with you. I think that told me that Joe really felt that Cameron Clark was going to be the guy, and then hoped that Van Roten would be able to, be a serviceable guard.
Yeah, he had his guy. That's the thing. Like, look, you can't
think that. I think he was expecting McGovern to be good.
Right. And well, yeah, man, I just again, we can't do it all at once. Like there were more holes, like our cornerbacks and linebackers, and they did address this was a very solid draft. He used premium capital in 2 successive years to draft offensive linemen. Just like you said, AVT was almost universally head and shoulders the best guard in the draft. They went up and grabbed him. So you can't, at some point you got to take these players and give them to the coaches, and they got to be able to do stuff with them. But I do believe the Cam Clark thing was a pop to the chops that we didn't see coming, and it's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, and I want to give shout out to Jeremy here because these two comments are perfect. Excellent comments, Jeremy. First one, we are struggling to tackle. That is an understatement. I said that week 2 when Damian Harris had that beast mode play. That was less on Damian Harris. That was more on our defenders. They're not wrapping anybody up. Like, he blasted through like 6 Jets players who weren't wrapping, weren't tackling. Like we said before, with the wide receivers not getting separation, that's an old Jets problem, saying the Jets aren't tackling. And I think that might be, like we talked about earlier, that's, I think, what's upsetting a lot of Jet fans, that we're talking with this new regime and new coaches and new everything. We're talking about some of these same problems, that the defense isn't tackling well, that the wide receivers aren't creating separation, that the offensive line looks bad. These are past problems.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And it's, I think, again, like the way I see that, like that play, that's we're talking about later in the game. Like, so that's when the defense is on the field all game. I mean, there are issues, but I see a lot of really good defensive stuff too. When you have, look, we're starting more rookies on the defense than anywhere else on our team right now. That's also where most of the injuries. So not only are we starting more rookies, we're also starting more second stringers as well. So that's one of those things, man, like I was talking about earlier, where we would want to hopefully protect that. We would want to keep them off the field, but we're putting them on the field for more time than they need to. Like in that exact game, we talked about it. The first quarter, they were on the field for all but 4 plays.
Yeah, no, exactly. And just
right?
like, with Jeremy's second comment, nailed it again. The reality is you need to score to compete. And that's exactly correct. We can make excuses left, right, forward, and backward. And we're saying, this isn't going right. This isn't going right. We believe in this. We hope this is going to happen. But at the end of the day, they got to put points on the board and they got to win. And if they don't start doing that, people are going to get angry and angrier. And they're going to, like you said, you're going to start to see those fire Mike LaFleur, fire Robert Saleh banners, because the fans want to see a decent product on the field. And I believe, like many Jet fans would say, after the years of shit we've been through, we deserve it. We deserve to watch some quality football. It's been a long time.
It's been so long, man. You know what I mean?
The last time we had quality football was 2015. It was the last time we had quality football on the field. That was 6 years ago.
It's the truth. And that was only like it was a little shot. You know what I mean? A little fleeting.
That was Mike
glimpse.
McCagnon building through free agency. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a 1-year wonder thing. Before that, we got to go back to the 09 and 010. We got to go back over a decade.
That's right. It's like, it's crazy because, and I tell this story a lot, but like I told my son when he was younger, I said, he was like, oh, are we good or bad or whatever? And I said, don't worry about it. We'll never be as bad as I've endured. You know what I mean? Like, and I was referencing back to the Kotite years. Never could I have imagined that we would be here for this long. Like, we can't get our head out of our ass. It's just, it's the craziest thing. I do see lots of hope, man. But these first 3 weeks are not helping the cause, Harrison. That much I can say.
No, without a doubt, man. Literally without a doubt. So, yeah, I appreciate all you guys here. Appreciate all your guys' comments. So, Vern, I mean, I got to disagree a little bit. So, Vern says, Corey's a first-time wide receiver 1. You're correct about that. He definitely is a first-time wide receiver 1. But just like last year, Rashad Perriman, that doesn't excuse it. Like, this is supposed to be the guy. And what's crazy is it's not like, it's not like we had inklings. It's not like throughout the offseason and the preseason, we were like, okay, Corey Davis doesn't look the role. Like, he looked at the role. And in the interviews, he was like, I'm excited to be a wide receiver 1. I'm ready for the responsibility. He looked really good in the preseason. I just don't get it. Which literally takes you to the point where, like, DJ Bieniemy pointed out that he's averaging 1.67 yards of separation, which is just literally pathetic. I'm pretty confident out of all these numbers, that's like the worst on the Jets.
Yeah. And like, look, it's not like I get what you're saying. Like, it's his first time in that, number 1 wide receiver position. And there can be some added stress with that. And I get it. At the same time, all we're really asking you to do is catch the ball like you've been doing every day for your whole entire life as a football player. That's all we're asking. We're not asking you to, carry guys. We're not asking you we're just asking you when the ball hits you in the hands, catch it. That's it. So there's a lot of blame to be placed on Corey Davis. Maybe something's going on with him, but if there is, then the coaching staff should say, hey, while you're dealing with that, why don't you sit down? I'm going to put Mims in.
And it's just weird. Like you said, it's not characteristic. It doesn't fit any kind of pattern. It doesn't fit what we saw in the past. It's just weird. But like you said, with sitting him down, saying things, I come back to Mike LaFleur. I don't know if you remember this when Mekhi Becton was going through his injury stuff. I remember when they asked Mike LaFleur about it, the way he said it was so cryptic. If you remember, he was like, well, Mekhi's dealing with some
stuff. Well, hold on.
I remember
I'm here.
He's like, yeah, no problem.
I'm here.
I just remember, and even Mekhi was a little like, what the hell? Because I remember LaFleur's like, well, Mekhi is dealing with some stuff. And me, I cover the press stuff on Twitter. That was my first reaction. I'm like, well, if it was an injury, he would have said injury. What is Mekhi dealing with? And then Mekhi, in an interview a week later, was like, yeah, I don't know what the hell he was talking about. He's like, I didn't get that comment.
But it was actually a month later. Like that's the weird thing.
A month later.
That's the weird thing about our press. It's like I think it was 5 weeks later or something like that. But that's the thing. It's like, and you want to give LaFleur benefit of the doubt, and we have been up to this point. But like when he, with the Mims decision, with the Mekhi Becton comments, with the George Fan thing, over Morgan Moses, like all this stuff. Yeah, and then it all starts to paint the picture when you see this product on the field and the inability to adjust and get the ball in your playmakers' hands in space. Like the fact that you can't figure out how to do that, you start to turn around and with hindsight go, maybe this guy doesn't know what he's doing yet. And I think that's really what we're dealing with. Not that we didn't know there would be some of that, but I really think Salah's got to look at this deeply and not just give him credit where credit isn't earned yet. Just say, hey, Mike, we got to talk, buddy. Where are you? Are you okay, kid? Are you all right? No, I'm freaking out, Rob. Like that's what he's going to hear. He's going to start crying. I suck. Yes, you do. Bring Matt Kavanaugh in and go, hey, what can we do to build this guy? That's why Kavanaugh's here.
It's a shame Mike and Matt don't look close enough that we could maybe try to switch them and see if anyone notices.
I know. Tell me about it, man.
But just looking at the comments, like Jets Gang says, shout out to all you guys. Jets Gang says it ain't just the O-line. You're 100% correct. It is not just the O-line. It's the wide receivers dropping a lot of balls. But like we come back to, I've always felt this way. Football, hands down, is won and lost in the trenches. If you don't have a good defensive line that can get to the quarterback and create pressure, if you don't have an offensive line that can open the running game, allow your quarterback to have time, nothing else matters. Literally nothing else matters. So It isn't just the O-line, but the O-line is a massive part. Again, coming back to those numbers you mentioned before, with Zach Wilson being hurried more than any quarterback in the NFL, having just as many sacks as any quarterback in the NFL, and having 1.7 seconds to throw the ball is just awful. Yeah. Just awful. And like you said, GreenBean, a lot of it is miscommunication, which should be able to be fixed. Well, we're going into week 4. So if you're going to fix it, now is the time to fix it.
Now's a pretty good time. We're ready.
That was a really good time. I'm waiting. I'm ready. Well, like Jeremy points out, the drop passes don't help either. And it really is. And like you said, you got to feel bad for Zach. Like, put yourself in this kid's mentality. It's a rookie quarterback. He's got 1.7 seconds to throw the ball, escapes the pressure, falls out, makes a beautiful throw, hits the wide receiver in the hands, and he drops it. Like, yep. What else can you that's demoralizing for a veteran quarterback. I can't even imagine what's going through Zach's head.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, what we have to hope is that these guys are all still tight. Like they're all still like rallying around each other. Like, no, man, we're going to they're working on it. The good news is that's the focus that we placed on the types of guys that we're bringing in. Guys that are more prone to doing the hard work. Guys that are more likely to lean towards rallying around each other as opposed to pointing fingers. We have very few, if any, divas and self-promoters and all that kind of shit. So that's the good news. We have a lot of guys that are high character guys. So we have to hope that they're all still supporting each other and they're getting to work and they're not letting anybody get too down on themselves. But at some point, everybody has their breaking point, is what I'm trying to say.
No, you're right, man. You're right. It's just.
All right, hold on. I'm going to try something here. Hold on, Harrison. Bear with. There it goes.
Problem.
I fixed it without my
appreciate
wife.
it. I see Blunted is here now. Blunted Vegas is here.
What's
appreciate
up,
you,
Blunted
brother.
Vegas?
Appreciate you,
buddy.
Jet Life. Appreciate all you guys. Matthias popped in. Appreciate you, Matthias. So Matthias asks, that's an interesting question. On how many other teams would Davis be a wide receiver one? Well, it depends. I mean, yeah, if you go to a team like the Titans, where you got A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, I mean, his butt ain't even seeing the field anymore. Like, that's the thing. If he was still on that team, that's what I'm like. If he was still on that team, you bring in Julio Jones, he may not be playing. He may not even be really seeing the field that much. So it depends what you got. And I mean, we were hoping he could be a wide receiver one. And I mean, like I said, I guess I wouldn't be as upset if he didn't look it. You know what I mean? Like, if during the offseason, if during the preseason, if he didn't look like he could be that. But like he did. And I guess I think that's why it's so upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting question because, I mean, the way he's played up until his career, I mean, up to this point in his career, he had a slow start. He was a 5th overall pick. I mean, he's got the pedigree, he's got the skills, he's got the build, he's got the measurables, he's got the track record. Like, he has that upward trajectory that you're looking for to give somebody a wide receiver one. So if he played like he has, like if he just continued on that trajectory, I think there's plenty of teams that he could be a wide receiver one on. The way he's playing right now, very few, so I don't know. I think that's interesting. If he, I think he has the talent and the potential to be that. He's got everything you want in a wide receiver. Again, he's just choosing to drop the ball instead of catch it. Why? I don't know.
Yeah, man. So Blunted asked us a question. Where did it go? I had it up a second ago. My apologies. Here we go. He said, will Joe be shopping guys like Marcus May, Denzel Mims, C.J. Mosley before the trade deadline? Any thoughts? Will he continue trading good players for draft picks? I think it comes down to, and I mentioned this, in the beginning of the season, I don't know if you agree, GreenBean, it comes down to who he sees in his future plans. Like, Joe Douglas clearly has a vision, and he either believes that this player fits what he's building or doesn't fit what he's building. And that's why I liked what he was doing. Like, perfect examples, like guys like Steve McClendon. McClendon was an excellent player back in 2019, but in 2020, he was an older dude. He was toward the end of his career, clearly wasn't in the future plans. Get a 5th or 6th round pick, that's great. I mean, think about in the 5th or 6th round, think about guys we got. Brandon Eccles, who's now our CB2, looking very good. Hamza Nasruddin, who's massively slept on. So guys like Marcus May, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, if LaMarcus Joyner were still healthy, I think that could open the door more for that potential. But now that Joyner's gone, I mean, Marcus May is really the only quality safety on the team. So I thought it was a possibility, if a team offers, a team like the Buccaneers or somebody that, is more of a win now team that wants an older guy like May that can be a veteran and a leader, offer something like a 2nd round pick or a 3rd round pick. But right now, I mean, he's the only good safety we got. So honestly, I think it really, again, just comes down to who Joe views in his future plans. And if he doesn't view him in his future plans, getting something is better than getting nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I'm a big fan of how Joe Douglas is choosing to do this. Like, I don't love every move, and I don't love every pick, and it's like, it's just not real. But overall, I like how we're doing it. When if you watch the really great teams, the teams that have longevity, they don't get misguided on where to place their resources. And like a player like May, again. I've talked about this a whole bunch, and if I'm repeating myself for anybody, I apologize. But a player like May, while he's a very good player, he's not Palomalu. He's not Ed Reed. He's
He's
none
not
of
Justin
those.
Simmons, who picked off Zach Wilson.
Right. Well, look, that's the thing. Like, May is a good football player, and I like Marcus May, and I would love to see him stay on the team. But Joe Douglas has May with the 2 franchise tags, 2 years for $23 million, and it's not guaranteed. So in the event May gets hurt or whatever, he's not committed to him for next year. If he chooses to go another direction, he has that flexibility. So when you're talking about a long-term contract, it would be foolish, and it would be a previous Jets GM response to give him more than that guaranteed when he doesn't have to. So, like, when you look at a team like the Steelers, like, they pay the players a TJ Watt. Look at the impact TJ Watt has on a team. Ben Roethlisberger, those types of guys, they put their resources where the impact is, and they have a system where young guys come up in the system and replace the guys that want the big contracts when they leave. Now, we're not there yet because it's all brand new, but we're starting that. We have a whole bunch of guys playing that are all learning the system at the same time. If they do work out, we're going to have these guys for 4 or 5 years all playing together. That's something we haven't seen in a long time. So if this works every year, kind of bringing in 7 to 10 draft picks and letting the guys leave that want the big contracts that are not high impact players, I like the mentality. Now, Marcus May right now he looks like the only guy that can play because look at all the injuries. Look what's happening. But that doesn't mean that Marcus May's value increases and that you should get desperate and silly with your resources because of our current situation. And I trust Joe Douglas's decision making in this, man. From my perspective, he's handling things on that end very much like I've always wanted to see it handled by for the New York Jets.
Yeah, and I think the best way to look at it is before everything started imploding this season, everyone was saying, agreeing that Joe Douglas, I've been saying for a while that he was a great GM. But a lot of people are saying now that they agree he's a great GM. He has all this potential. He's doing all the right things. Well, if the thing is exploding on the field, that's really like we were talking about before, more on the coaches.
Right. At some
Not
point,
as much on the GM.
Right. At some point, you take a whole bunch of first-round picks and you give them to the coach. Now, it just so happens that we handed them over to a bunch of coaches that have never been in this position before. Now, it's not an excuse. I'm not trying to say it's an excuse, but it's real. These are facts. So again, I don't think we should suck like this. Like there was a comment from Matthias Simon. He said we shouldn't be this bad. We're like the worst in that. That's what I'm saying. We shouldn't be this bad. We should be having our difficulties, but we should be able to compete. And that's where the problem is.
I completely agree, man. I completely agree.
Right.
So, yeah. So like I said, we appreciate all you guys being here. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for being part of the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. Thank you for your comments. Really appreciate you guys being here. GreenBean, I want to thank you again for joining me. It was
absolutely
awesome. Like always, it's awesome talking football with you.
Yeah, right on, man. I'm happy when I come on your show. You're easy to talk to. We don't always agree, but I think that's what I like about you.
Yeah, and you can always disagree, but you do it respectfully.
Right.
Which is
ain't nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
And I love the chat.
Yeah,
those guys are great in the chat. They keep it going. It's awesome, man. Everybody's awesome. I love being here, and I appreciate you having me on, Harrison.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. You guys are absolutely awesome. So again, before we leave, if you could just please subscribe to the channel. You can again do so by clicking on the logo in the bottom right corner of the screen. Again, I want to thank you guys, like always, for tuning into the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. I will catch you guys either later in the week or next week. Unfortunately, you might have noticed behind me all my Jet stuff is down. That's because I'm actually in the process of moving. So I'm going to be moving over the weekend. Hopefully I'll be able to come to you guys next Monday. I'm really hoping I will be able to, but we'll have to see what's going on with the move and everything. But again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Let's hope these Jets, light a fire under their ass and things change quick. And have a great week, guys. Take care.